I Ebenezer until she Scrooge. Jacob, what the fuck is the point of like making an Ebenezer prequel movie? Like Ebenezer's prequel is like a Christmas Carol is about his like backstory.
So it's just like him being a shithead.
Yeah, exactly. Also, I saw that poster, and after a few days of realizing it was a joke, it was not a joke. Ty West is directing that movie.
Wait, really?
Yeah. I it's surreal. I guess get the bag before it all collapses because 2026 is the last year. Hi, I'm Henry.
I'm Jacob.
That's Jacob, and welcome back to Technopoverty, where we've been playing freedom fighters while working through Paulo Freire's Pedagogy of the Oppressed. Seems Barney's taken off.
Barney, so I guess this becomes BCAM, as you all know.
As usual,
What up, Techno Hotties?
we
and
have
Safdie?
mini screens as part of the Technopoverty ethos. But yes, Pedagogy of the Oppressed. Jacob's been playing freedom fighters. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, Technopoverty is an excuse to play books while reading video games and read books while playing video games. We talk about both with you here in the chat while also just bouncing off of pop culture, current events, and how what we're reading fits into that kind of thing. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pull up
You're right,
freedom fighters
3-2.
here.
Ebenezer is going to dance down public stairs, and it's going to wow everybody, and it'll surely win the Oscar this time.
But to talk a bit more about movies as well as Pedagogy of the Oppressed, because we're finished Pedagogy of the Oppressed, tonight we're reading Walter Benjamin's Critique of Violence. We've read a bit of Benjamin on the stream last summer during our Summer of Doom. We went through the work of art in the age of its mechanical reproduction. I cite that work quite often while we're playing and reading things here on the channel, so foundational, worth going through. Critique of Violence, excellent as well. Benjamin's one of the goats. Angel of History, we'll have to find a way to work that one in at some point soon, but I don't think that's going to be too hard given its content, and anything can be historical. Historicize everything, as another dude we read a lot would say. But to get back to what was going on with Freire, he was highlighting the oppressor-oppressed dynamic in psychology and education and how that manifests. And there's a lot in there about recognizing the oppressor within yourself, recognizing the material conditions in which you're being oppressed, creating an educational method by which you in your context can become aware and better advocate for yourself. And then he goes into a sort of macro level look at how you can use this educational program in a regional sense to unite the oppressed at the local level to, start affecting politics in a progressive and positive way. A big thing Freire points out in the book that I think we've really been latching onto is what he calls the banking method of education, in which the student is a bucket that just gets info deposited in them, and the goal of the student is just to recite that info. There's no actual dialogue going on between the student and teacher. The teacher is not learning contextually from the conditions of the student, what their experiences are. It's not about creating an autonomous or thinking individual or a critical thinker. It's about dehumanizing, creating someone who is going to work for you as you profit off their labor, kind of a thing. You don't know how you're being exploited if you're limited in self-destruct and self-hate. We're reading Critique of Violence by Benjamin tonight, but we will be going into Gretchen Felker-Martin's Black Flame next. Once Jacob finishes up here with Freedom Fighters, I'm going to start playing Pipistrello and the Cursed Yo-Yo while talking about Gretchen Felker-Martin's Black Flame. There's a bit going on there with the protagonist who's repressing and making herself small and doing the self-loathing thing. I like where the book is going, and I think it's going to be a fun change of pace after what we've been doing here. Benjamin. All right, Ja.
They got a Soviet elite training facility. It's in the high school. take your back and cancel the classes, dog, for real. From what I hear...
But I didn't even get back to the movie example I was going to talk about. Jacob, Ryan Gosling's playing Ghost Rider.
Do all that, and we'll be living
Whoa.
You don't have to pretend. I bring this up because the MCU, I think, is a great example of what we can point to when talking about this banking system of education, or this it's the result of a culture in which the participants or the constituents of that culture are all like banking educated sort of individualists, striver meritocrats, to put it in the most, I guess, clinical terms. But I saw a meme not too long after that, clearly corporately made, but it was just like a screen cap of the Barbie movie when the kids are having the dance-off, and then the second panel is like, wow, Ghost Rider and Shang-Chi are having a dance-off, and it's just like, oh, I recognized the thing. Like I'm reaffirming the value of your bank account, like your action figure shelf. Like that is the kind of the result of that.
Yeah.
It's a very anti-dialogical way of looking at it. It brought to mind, right around the time in Avengers Infinity War, I think, whenever the big Thanos ones were coming out. I know I'm not trying to like pretend I don't know. I know it's Infinity War and Endgame. I just don't remember which of the two this started. There was a very heavy amount of online defense of the MCU project. If you think about it, superheroes are our modern myths. Or if you think about it, superheroes are like our modern mythology. And the application of that sentence, I think, also highlights this dialogical versus anti-dialogical method of information spreading and education that Freire gets at. Because in one sense, people would say that to shut down arguments, like to use a phrase we were talking about a bit last time and we've been talking about on the Discord, like to take it seriously and not question it. Superhero movies are like the modern mythology, so you shouldn't like critique Disney or corporations or anything behind the crafting of this thing. You should just respect the thing and like let's all have a good time and shut your brain off and enjoy the thing. But that's very anti-dialogical. It's, to take it seriously, to stop questioning it, to just accept the authority of it as is. The dialogical approach to that very same phrase, superhero movies are like our modern mythology, if you think about it. Instead of that being like the end of it, respect the authority, if that's the start of a line of questioning, it could be all like, well, what does it mean for it to be our modern mythology? And like, is mythology like something religious, something sacred? Like, to what extent do you carry that? And like, I personally think if someone earnestly believes like their superhero fetish is their religion, they would be somewhat offended by how commercialized or corporatized it is. And like, yes, there are those types of nerds, but those types of nerds aren't the ones using the same statement to shut down the conversation and say, just enjoy the Disney thing. If anything, they're maybe hypercritical of the Disney thing in a bad way. But those are kind of like the two extreme ends of like the exact same phrase, just in an anti-dialogical or a dialogical manner. And I don't know, I just see that all over our pop culture as a result of it being just the nostalgia and the recognition. Like the market is just like, do you remember this thing? What's the value on this thing? And just that Latin tell. I just really wanted to mention that Ryan Gosling's Ghost Rider. The most important news of the week, folks. Don't look at any other headlines. Don't look at what's going on in Prairie Land, Texas. Don't look up Crockett, California, or anything going on out there.
Yet never you fret.
Never you fret. Ryan Gosling's going to ride a motorcycle. And I didn't even have to wait like a whole hour before I started seeing people putting pictures from Place Beyond the Pines places and being like, it's actually really brilliant if you think about it. Like, oh my God.
They're gonna hope that this is like when Heath Ledger was the Joker, is what they're
Right,
hoping this is going to be.
because if you're in this dialectic mode of education where it's like oppressor oppressed, or like there's a meritocratic authority to which you're like trying to appeal, like it's the Reddit, it's very Reddit, and like I mean that in the form and structure of Reddit is like you're trying to say the most clever thing to get upvotes.
Yeah.
So like you have to kind of like you're triangulating, like we all have the same bucket of vocabulary and have like the same values assigned to like how we use irony, how we use reference, like that kind of a thing. This is how you get, like, for instance, like that Reddit type of like co-opting of political language, regardless of, you know, liberal, conservative, libertarian, socialist, anarchist. Everyone's just on a forum exchanging word banks instead of there being like that material participation or practice, and that's just like the result of the neoliberal education of like the individualist, like everybody perform for the authority.
I didn't know.
Now, Beyond the Pines was interesting. I like Place Beyond the Pines too, Ja. I'm a sucker for big swings, and I really appreciated the swings it took.
I just didn't know that it was 3 movies.
Right, exactly. I think the middle movie is kind of weak. And I think the third movie does play into some like fatalist like tragedy cliches, but like I think it at least sings the song well, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But you are right, it did swing really hard for it.
Yeah. But that first movie rips. The bank robbing one with like the chases, like yeah. Or it's just the one chase, isn't it? It's been a long time since I've seen Place Beyond the Pines. I remember him riding the bike through the woods and stuff like that, but I think there's only the one chase after the heist.
There's also, isn't that the movie that like he met Eva Mendes on before he married her?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, I do want to have a kid with this lady. Like, damn.
Get back here, come on. I'll follow you.
Good for them. Good for them.
All right, let's pull up the Benjamin.
We did it. We did it, folks. We got
Jacob's like bringing the
reviews.
violence. I need to critique it. Let's start.
Yeah, let's critique this violence. I watched Mandalorian and Grogu. Disney failed. Jedi mind tricks don't work on Jagarians.
Oh, I think one other good example of dialogical, anti-dialogical, we watched The Monkey this past Sunday on the Discord.
It was good.
It was so good, and it did not hold the original text sacred. It threw most of it out, and I love that.
And it was fun.
Yeah.
It was really fun.
If a completely different word bank, but the exact same ideas articulated at the end. That's like what a good art adaptation is. It's in dialogue with what the source material is. It's not just trying to recreate it like stoically or stiltedly.
Mm-hmm. You mean it's trying to be something the same?
No. Also a very funny case of good old no symbolism Stephen King writing a short story where like, well, clearly this monkey is symbolic of like you and your brother growing distant after your father's disappeared, and there's just like absent, like you don't believe in your family as a social structure, so y'all are cutting each other off, and like that's what this monkey is a metaphor for. Mm-hmm. And even the Stephen King short story, like, yes, that's present and hammy, but like the story itself is just like dad finds monkey in the attic, warns his son not to use it, has a few flashbacks, and then he like throws it in a lake and like escapes with some trouble.
Yeah.
And again, no metaphor, Stephen. First scene of the fucking movie adaptation, it just like instantly, like a dad coming in, being like, I got this thing for my kids, I like get rid, like it just very blatantly states what the theme is going to be, and it's
exposition dump in such a funny way that you're just like, I love
there's such a biting sense of humor too. It's like that first scene, like when it happened, I was like, oh, this director read this story and was like, Stephen, that was a very stupid idea, and you could have gone way further with it. Because like Stephen King, it's just kind of like it could have been. It's like a prime example of that Family Guy bit where Stephen King's just pitching stories to his editor, and it's just like, this one's about a haunted lamp. Like it's like, this is about an evil monkey toy. Like it's whatever. But like the way the movie's like, okay, fuck it. Like sure, yeah, there's an evil monkey, and it really fucks you up, and like there's a general metaphor about it being like your dad cutting you off. Like let's run with it. And it's just a totally different set of like the same name characters. There's a similar kind of flashback interplay going, but it goes somewhere totally different with it when the brothers age up, and just like the monkey doesn't even operate the same. In the story, it has a cymbal, and in the film, it drums. But the drumming makes such a good use of like the sound editing, the way it hits the beats.
Yeah.
And yeah, it doesn't even like the movie doesn't even take the monkey seriously. Like there's like hyper gore and like very humorous bits, but like it's taking itself seriously. It's committing to like, well, we got to follow through on if like this is the physics and the laws of this universe and how people act and react to this thing. Whereas like the short story is just Stephen King wanting to be taken seriously. He's like, yeah, there's an evil monkey, he throws in the lake. This guy's like, well, there's an evil monkey. And because there's an evil monkey, these brothers have like these unresolved like trauma things they need to get through. And because they have this unresolved trauma, this evil monkey's out there proliferating worse than what's going on. And like this really needs to be like followed through on and considered. So like it's a fleshed out plot is what I'm saying for a short story that's only like 30 pages long. And every part of that plot is in dialogue with like, well, what can we trace back to the source material to keep it like sounding right while not just being a literal remake or interpretation into 3D.
Yeah. Also, the Xennial bosses, arguably some of the funniest, like...
Yeah, the Zoomer boss, rip.
Dude, they're so good. Just like a lot of really good character dialogue. Haunted Casino Buffet. Yes.
But yeah, just a reminder, we watched The Monkey. We'll probably watch The Return next. Especially because we both saw The Odyssey, so it'd be neat to see The Return. That's the one Ray Fiennes was in a few years back. It's just the homecoming part of the movie, and it's like a shredded Ray Fiennes, so I'm curious.
I saw there was some meme where someone was arguing about it. It's like, I don't even get it. Like, this movie, The Odyssey, was so dumb. I don't even like know why there was a war, what's going on, and then it's the meme from Mad Men. It's like, that's what the alien's for. It was good.
There does need to be an adaptation. Like, we have Troy, but like that's I guess it's old enough now that we need a new one.
Yeah.
But like especially in the chud reaction sphere of like not understanding what the Odyssey is, it's like you guys know Troy's also like the Iliad's a tragedy, right? Like
yeah,
it's stupid that Achilles and Hector are fighting and war is bad is like a big part of it. Like if you wanna get spicy with the reading, it's like war is bad and our poor gay men should be kissing each other, not killing each other. Rip Patroclus and Achilles and Hector.
My God.
I mean, they go to great lengths to describe them like getting oiled, so.
Yeah.
Do what you want with that.
You know, get some thoughts. Yeah, that was even one thing. It wasn't gay enough. It was almost.
On one hand, yeah, the Odyssey.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, where could they enter more horny? Because I like what they did with Cersei.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
Even though I love Bernadette Peters' Cersei from the TV miniseries movie Odyssey from the 90s.
The Rafe. Wait, no.
Not Rafe. Armand Assasi. I forget his name. It's like it's an alliterative A name. It's a Greek guy who played Odysseus. But yeah, Bernadette Peters played Cersei. See how much I remember the actress who played Cersei for some reason, but not Odysseus.
Regroup. Do it. Eliminate them. Get moving.
Adventure Night D&D stream, Asante. Arnand Asante, yeah.
Stand your ground. Come on.
Whoa, guys, get mine. Okay, now you guys are being dramatic. Let's go. No, we died.
All right, I was going to read critique, but give me just a moment with this projector.
Oh, projector, we love you.
Also, Ja, speaking of D&D, I don't have anything on stream lined up, but I'm cheating on you. I'm reading books on the side. I'm reading things not for the stream for various purposes. Some might be in the stream in the future, but one of those things I'm reading is Dragons of the Autumn Twilight, which is the first book that came out for Dragonlance, the D&D campaign setting. This book's from 1984. It is the fantasy equivalent of Commando. It fucking rips. Like, also you feel like you have a huge brain because like the chapters are so tiny. Like, I was like, oh yeah, if I was a 12-year-old kid and I started reading this, I'd be like, wow, I'm shredding through this. I'm the smartest boy. Like,
Just the smartest big boy.
also this wizard's doing cool shit, and oh wow, there's a half-elf with a dark, edgy backstory. A lot of it, I'm curious about how, if any of this got to Japan. Well, like, it had to get to Japan because like there's Japanese translations. D&D was really huge in Japan. I did see like a Reddit forum thread where people were talking about if you're looking for something to read in Japanese, they're worth doing because like it's legible enough because it's pretty basic English. I know like so many like German and like Swedish and like European metal bands that have like made references to like the characters in these novels.
Defend! Move! Move! Defend here! Let's go! Let's go!
Elman says, I want to see serious tone suit up montages are erotic no matter if it's Batman or Devil Wears Prada. Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Speaking of suiting up montages, yeah, it's the fantasy equivalent of Commando. Just like, I don't think there's been any breaks yet as far as like people make fun of Dragonlance and D&D stuff as being Lord of the Rings derivative because like if your characters happen to meet in a bar, you get 2 decades of dudes on forums who will be like, sorry, it's a Lord of the Rings clone. Without looking at the specifics of the particularities. Even though in Lord of the Rings, sure, Strider and the Hobbits meet in the bar, but they don't become a fellowship till they hit Rivendell.
That's true. Takes a long.
It takes. I think that's not even the first book as broken up in Lord of the Rings, because like there's the 3 books, but then they're each broken up into 2 books further within their own like pacing. Anyways. I may be off on that. It may be the 2nd or 3rd book. Well, like, it may not be the 1st book of Fellowship. I think it's the 2nd book of Fellowship they get to Rivendell. Getting way into the weeds here, talking about it. Dragonlance, I mean, I'm 70 pages in, and like, it's just been nonstop. Like, they go to the bar, bad things happen, they're on the run. Like, there's been no, like, I remember specifically in Lord of the Rings, for instance, it's like, oh yeah, years passed, Gandalf never came back, Frodo had a few birthdays, and he wondered when he was gonna leave, and then, like, it takes a while for them to actually leave Hobbiton, is what I'm saying.
Stand your ground! Squad!
I'll stay low.
But there's already several features in it that are making me think of various JRPGs and manga series. And I know, for instance, like Dungeons and Dragons and Wizardry and Ultima influenced a lot of Japanese game devs in the 80s. I know Book of the New Sun had its covers done by Yoshitaka Amano, who is the dude who did the art for like the first 6 Final Fantasy games as far as the character concepts and all that go. So I know there's genre carryover between the two. I'm already recognizing a few things that feel very Berserk and Final Fantasy in this as well. I'm curious where it will go. So yeah, chat, that's what I'm not reading for the stream. But yeah, we have Gretchen Felker-Martin's Black Flame coming up and The Lathe of Heaven after that as we get to Pipistrello and the Cursed Yo-Yo and Mina the Hollower. Elman says, I'm correct, the Council at Rivendell's Chapter 2 of Book 2 says the internet. Chat's in an open relationship with techno-poverty. I'm reading David McKellen's Mexican. Marxism after Marx. No cheating required. Nice.
Yes.
Yeah, we keep it open here.
Listen, yeah, and that's the biggest thing is that it's consenting and there's conversations.
We need to get back to the sewers. The Red
You need to get back to the sewers.
Come on.
Yeah, I think the level's legible enough to where we can keep playing and reading. All right, critique of violence. The task of a critique of violence can be summarized as that of expounding its relation to law and justice. For a cause, however effective, becomes violent in the precise sense of the word only when it bears on moral issues. The sphere of these issues is defined by the concepts of law and justice. With regard to the first of these, it is clear that the most elementary relationship within any legal system is that of ends to means, and further, that violence can first be sought only in the realm of means, not of the ends. These observations provide a critique of violence with more, and certainly different, premises than perhaps appears. For if violence is a means, a criterion for criticizing it might seem immediately available. It imposes itself in the question whether violence, in a given case, is a means to a just or an unjust end. A critique of it would then be implied in a system of just ends. This, however, is not so. For what such a system, assuming it's to be secure against all doubt, would contain is not a criterion for violence itself as a principle, but rather the criterion for cases of its use. The question will remain open whether violence, as a principle, could be a moral means even to just ends. To resolve this question, a more exact criterion is needed, which would discriminate within the sphere of means themselves, without regard for the ends they serve. The exclusion of this more precise critical approach is perhaps the predominant feature of a main current of legal philosophy, natural law. It perceives in the use of violent means to just ends no greater problem than a man sees in his right to move his body in the direction of a desired goal. According to this view, for which the terrorism in the French Revolution provided an ideological foundation, violence is a product of nature, as it were a raw material, the use of which is in no way problematical, unless force is misused for unjust ends. If according to the theory of state of natural law, people give up all their violence for the sake of the state, this is done on the assumption, which Spinoza, for example, states explicitly in his Tractus Theologico Politicus, that the individual, before the conclusion of this rational contract, has de jure the right to use at will the violence that is de facto at his disposal. You, as an American, have a right to a legal kill, Jacob.
You know what?
We just accept it. We've been hanging freedom fighters out to dry for this constantly, in which it's like, what are we fighting for besides the ability to like do Red Dawn with our friends? Mm-hmm. You know, is America just a nation of like, this is something, thinking of the monkey in Stephen King's The Stand and just Stephen King's like vision of utopia in general. I think of Boulder, Colorado in The Stand, and it's just like, oh yeah, everybody's just chill. like what's the constructive project here? Like, is there just a state of nature where everybody's like a center left Democrat who's just like chill with everything and we just watch all the same TV?
Mm-hmm. We're just like cool with that.
But yeah, I mean, all our movies, again, like The Exceptional Case, talking about Michael Bay, they're always about like this protagonist is breaking the law, but they are right to do so. We have like had like 5 state-sanctioned individuals as sub-characters in this narrative who have signed the document and stamped the approval. It is okay for this person to be on this rampage.
I gotta tell you, it's really fun having a gang of dudes just to sick on people. I think I kind of get dictatorship.
You're kind of digging the whole mob mentality of it all.
It really is, the power to just have a bunch of people just go after the issue that you're trying to solve.
Hey, look, those protesters over there.
Yeah, wow. If we could just disperse that so I can get to what I need to.
Yeah, right-wing death squads with the boys.
Yeah.
Perhaps these views have been recently rekindled by Darwin's biology, which, in a thoroughly dogmatic manner, regards violence as the only original means besides natural selection appropriate to all the vital ends of nature. Popular Darwinistic philosophy has often shown how short a step it is from the dogma of natural history to the still cruder one of legal philosophy, which holds that the violence that is, almost alone, appropriate to natural ends is thereby also legal. This is just natural, folks. This thesis of natural law that regards violence as a natural datum is diametrically opposed to that of positive law, which sees violence as a product of history. If natural law can judge all existing law only in criticizing its ends, so positive law can judge all evolving law only in criticizing its means. If justice is the criterion of ends, legality is that of means. Notwithstanding this antithesis, however, both schools meet in their common basic dogma. Just ends can be attained by justified means. Justified means used for just ends. Natural law attempts, by the justness of the ends, to justify the means. Positive law to guarantee the justness of the ends through the justification of the means. This antinomy would prove insoluble if the common dogmatic assumption were false, if justified means on the one hand and just ends on the other were in irreconcilable conflict. No insight into this problem could be gained, however, until the circular argument had been broken and mutually independent criteria both of just ends and of justified means are established. The realm of ends, and therefore also the question of a criterion of justness, is excluded for the time being from the study. Instead, the central place is given to the question of the justification of certain means that constitute violence. Principles of natural law cannot decide this question, but can only lead to bottomless casuistry. For if positive law is blind to the absoluteness of ends, natural law is equally so to the contingency of means. On the other hand, the positive theory of law is acceptable as a hypothetical basis at the outset of this study, because it undertakes a fundamental distinction between kinds of violence independently of cases of their application. So regardless of the case in which we're using it, is violence a means? Is it a moral and ethical means? Can it be?
Can it?
Or do we just justify it within the ends? Oh, another term. Okay, I'll read that.
Yeah, moral law. Oh.
Okay, other terms. Moral law refers to conduct derived from an objective right and wrong. Moral law usually refers to a higher set of principles that should govern conduct that is not necessarily set down by legislation. In legal philosophy, natural law is a set of universal truths, principles, and rules that properly govern more human conduct. In contrast to positive law, natural law is pre-existing and discovered through human reason and rational analysis. Yeah, so natural law is what people appeal to when they talk about violence as like just the means of nature. You know what else, Jacob? Like, I see gay animals all the time, so if we're gonna go down the natural law path, I'm just saying. I'm not trying to be too like clever or like layered in what I'm saying. I just think if you believe God made nature and the animals are gay, you should just like really not be thinking any much harder about it than that, you know?
Yeah, people got a problem with gay animals, which is just like, why are you thinking about that a lot?
I do want to bring up the concept of moral non-cognitivism as well. This starts getting into like different schools of metaethics and different ideas in metaethics, but I mean, there's cognitivism and moral. There's I believe it's moral cognitivism and moral non-cognitivism are the two distinctions I'm about to make. But like, is there actually a natural law? I think moral cognitivism is that like there isn't some baseline root foundation of existence, reality, some kind of like duty towards some sort of moral, and then there's like moral non-cognitivism, which is like there's no aware sense of like the moral or the just in the world. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean like don't try to make systems or try to find ways to govern and like mitigate violence, oppression, dehumanization, etc. It just means like you have to actually do that. There's no one at the wheel. There's not even a wheel. Yeah. Like you have to construct the wheel, and you have to inform people on how to like actually steer the wheel when it's constructed. I think a lot about Obama's "the moral arc of history" line. It's like, oh, it's slow going, but it bends, and it's like, well, I think it only bends if you're aiming.
Yeah. All right, guys, we need one more health pack for our friend, shall we?
On the other hand, the positive theory of law is acceptable as a hypothetical basis at the outset of the study because it undertakes a fundamental distinction between kinds of violence independently of cases of their application. This distinction is between historically acknowledged, so-called sanctioned violence and unsanctioned violence. If the following considerations proceed from this, it cannot, of course, mean that given forms of violence are classified in terms of whether they are sanctioned or not. For in a critique of violence, a criterion for the latter in positive law cannot concern its uses, but only its evaluation. The question that concerns us is, what light is thrown on the nature of violence by the fact that such a criterion or distinction can be applied to it at all? Or, in other words, what is the meaning of this distinction? That this distinction supplied by positive law is meaningful, based on the nature of violence, and irreplaceable by any other, will soon enough be shown. But at the same time, light will be shed on the sphere in which alone such a distinction can be made. To sum up, if the criterion established by positive law to assess the legality of violence can be analyzed with regard to its meaning, then the sphere of its application must be criticized with regard to its value. For this critique, a standpoint outside positive legal philosophy, but also outside natural law, must be found, the extent of which it can only be furnished by a historical philosophical view of law will emerge. The meaning of the distinction between legitimate and illegitimate violence is not immediately obvious. The misunderstanding in natural law by which a distinction is drawn between violence used for just and unjust ends must be emphatically rejected. Rather, it has already been indicated that positive law demands of all violence a proof of its historical origin, which under certain conditions is declared legal, sanctioned. Since the acknowledgement of legal violence is most tangibly evident in a deliberate submission to its ends, a hypothetical distinction between kinds of violence must be based on the presence or absence of a general historical acknowledgement of its ends. Ends that lack such acknowledgement may be called natural ends, the other legal ends. The differing functions of violence, depending on whether it serves natural or legal ends, can be most clearly traced against the background of specific legal conditions. For the sake of simplicity, the following discussion will relate to contemporary European conditions. I'm going to double check, but I'm pretty sure this essay came out in either 23 or 26.
Regroup, squad.
Okay.
Yeah, Benjamin was German. Let me just look it up really quick.
Look at it. I'm trying to find some health packs so I can get these two guys, so I can get some more Riz, so I can get a couple more soldiers. We got 7 dudes. You know?
1921.
Damn.
Yeah. After World War I, before World War II, he was a German. I believe he was part of the German, the Frankfurt School, critical thinkers. People who are interested in, I've talked about this a bit before, but this wave of philosophers, especially after World War I, into World War II, and then with the whole fascism and all that of World War II, they were fascinated with and kind of looking at well, Marx said X, Y, and Z was going to happen as things accelerated and material conditions reached such and workers gained consciousness. And X and Y have happened, but maybe not Z. And what's mitigating the rise of workers of the world uniting? What's going on culturally and aesthetically and sort of this is where we start getting, a lot of cultural criticism, in the early 1900s. This is where a lot of that starts emerging. You'll hear right-wingers and reactionaries refer to the Frankfurt School as that's, the Marxist indoctrination place where it's where it all started going wrong. Particular types of theys started giving too many people the wrong ideas, and degeneracy started to reign and such, like some sort of fucking fantasy poem, because these people saw Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings but never read the books. Yeah,
I also love the marriage between Fido and Cleo's, not Fido and Leo. Next thing, dogs are going to marry cats, and not if Dog Pope has anything to say about it, which I love Dog Pope. But I still want Dog Pope to be just as Catholic,
Dog Pope. Why would just as Catholic?
Yeah, just doesn't want birth control.
Hey, don't leave your kids around that dog too long, just saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Characteristic of these, as far as the individual as legal subject is concerned, is the tendency not to admit the natural ends of such individuals in those cases in which such ends could, in a given situation, be usefully pursued by violence. This means this legal system tries to erect, in all areas where individual ends could be usefully pursued by violence, legal ends that can only be realized by legal power. Indeed, it strives to limit by legal ends even those areas in which natural ends are admitted in principle within wide boundaries, like that of education, as soon as these natural ends are pursued with an excessive measure of violence, as in the laws relating to the limits of educational authority to punish. It can be formulated as a general maxim of present-day European legislation that all the natural ends of individuals must collide with legal ends if pursued with a greater or lesser degree of violence. The contradiction between this and the right of self-defense will be resolved in what follows. From this maxim, it follows that law sees violence in the hands of individuals as a danger undermining the legal system. As a danger, nullifying legal ends in the legal executive? Certainly not. For then violence as such would not be condemned, but only that directed to illegal ends. It will be argued that a system of legal ends cannot be maintained if natural ends are anywhere still pursued violently. In the first place, however, this is a mere dogma. To counter it, one might perhaps consider the surprising possibility that the law's interest in a monopoly of violence vis-a-vis individuals is not explained by the intention of preserving legal ends, but rather by that of preserving the law itself. That violence, when not in the hands of the law, threatens it not by the ends that it may pursue, but by its mere existence outside the law. Why is it called organized crime?
That's so weird.
The same may be more drastically suggested if one reflects how often the figure of the great criminal, however repellent his ends may have been, has aroused the secret admiration of the public. This cannot result from his deed, but only from the violence to which it bears witness. In this case, therefore, the violence of which present-day law is seeking in all areas of activity to deprive the individual appears really threatening, and arouses even in defeat the sympathy of the mass against the law. But what function violence can with reason seem so threatening to law, and so be feared by it, must be especially evident where its application, even in the present legal system, is still permissible. This is above all the case in the class struggle in the form of the workers' guaranteed right to strike. Organized labor is, apart from the state, probably today the only legal subject entitled to exercise violence. Against this view, there is certainly the objection that an omission of actions, a non-action, which a strike really is, cannot be described as violence. Such a consideration doubtless made it easier for a state power to concede the right to strike, once this was no longer avoidable. But its truth is not unconditional, and therefore not unrestricted. It is true that the omission of an action, or service, where it amounts simply to a severing of relations, can be an entirely non-violent pure means. And as in the view of the state, or the law, the right to strike conceded to labor is certainly not a right to exercise violence, but, rather, to escape from a violence indirectly exercised by the employer. Strikes conforming to this may undoubtedly occur from time to time and involve only a withdrawal or an estrangement from the employer. The moment of violence, however, is necessarily introduced in the form of extortion into such an omission if it takes place in the context of a conscious readiness to resume the suspended action under certain circumstances that either have nothing whatever to do with this action or only superficially modify it. Understood in this way, the right to strike constitutes in the view of labor, which is opposed to that of the state, the right to use force in attaining certain ends. The antithesis between the two conceptions emerges in all its bitterness in the face of a revolutionary general strike. In this, labor will always appeal to its right to strike, and the state will call this appeal an abuse, since the right to strike was not so intended, and take emergency measures. For the state retains the right to declare that the simultaneous use of a strike in all industries is illegal, since the specific reasons for strike admitted by legislation cannot be prevalent in every workshop. And this difference of interpretation is expressed the objective contradiction in the legal situation, whereby the state acknowledges a violence whose ends, as natural ends, it sometimes regards with indifference, but in a crisis, the revolutionary general strike, confronts endemically. What? They can just rewrite the law?
Whoa.
Wait, they can just rewrite the law?
Wait, they can just rewrite.
I saw some headline today. I didn't get time to dig into it. But it was something along the lines of data centers get to sidestep environmental regulations. They don't break any regulatory laws. They just sidestep them.
Yeah, it's different.
It's different. My
You're not
lawyer
a
said a
corporation.
different word. The paper says I'm a different thing.
Yeah. Don't you see? It's completely different. Because otherwise I would be in trouble. You see?
Judd, the state gets to label what they're doing as the extortive violence of okay, you're being too disruptive.
Well, they call property damage violence.
Yeah,
That is the key
yeah.
thing is they always say this violent, and it's just well, that's a window. That's not.
Yeah, broken windows policing does not work.
I mean, broken window is scary, yeah, for sure. But don't be crazy.
More specifically, such conduct, when active, may be called violent if it exercises a right in order to overthrow the legal system that has conferred it. When passive, it is nevertheless to be so described if it constitutes extortion in the sense explained above. Why would we give you a self-destruct button? Why would we write that into the system to hand off to people? It therefore reveals an objective contradiction in the legal situation, but not a logical contradiction in the law, if under certain circumstances the law meets the strikers as perpetrators of violence with violence. For in a strike the state fears above all else that function of violence, which it is the object of this study to identify, is the only secure foundation of its critique. For if violence were, as first appears, merely the means to secure directly whatever happens to be sought, it could fulfill its end as predatory violence. It would be entirely unsuitable as a basis for, or a modification to, relatively stable conditions. The strike shows, however, that it can be so, that it is able to be found and modify legal conditions, however offended the sense of justice may find itself thereby. It will be objected that such a function of violence is fortuitous and isolated. This can be rebutted by consideration of military violence. The possibility of military law rests on exactly the same objective contradiction in the legal situation as does that of strike law. That is to say, on the fact that legal subjects sanction violence whose ends remain for the sanctioners' natural ends, and can therefore in a crisis come into conflict with their own legal or natural ends. Admittedly, military violence is in the first place used quite directly as predatory violence toward its ends. Yet it is very striking that even, or rather precisely, in primitive conditions that know hardly the beginnings of constitutionalized relations, and even in cases where the victor has established himself in invulnerable possession, a peace ceremony is entirely necessary. Indeed, the word peace, in the sense in which it is the correlative word between the word war, for there is also quite different meanings, similarly unmetaphorical and political, the one used by Kant in talking of eternal peace, denotes this a priori, necessary sanctioning, regardless of all other legal conditions, of every victory. This sanction consists precisely in recognizing the new conditions as a new law, quite regardless of whether they need de facto any guarantee of their continuation. If, therefore, conclusions can be drawn from military violence as being primordial and paradigmatic of all violence used for natural ends, there is inherent in all such violence a law-making character. We shall return later to the implications of this insight. It explains the above-mentioned tendency of modern law to divest the individual, at least as a legal subject, of all violence, even that directed only to natural ends. In the great criminal, this violence confronts the law with the threat of declaring a new law, a threat that even today, despite its impotence, is in important instances horrifies the public, as it did in primeval times. Yeah, what were the January 6ers going to do if they, shot, I'm not going to say any direct names, but you know what I mean? If they killed the manager...
If they did any sort of actual physical violence,
they wouldn't. I'm just saying they didn't have an ideological project backing it in any sustainable way.
Oh yeah, no, it was just we're gonna get in there, and then oh shit.
And I think we
got the dog that caught the car, and you're what do I do now?
When you're the state that fetishizes the violence, you're Batman. You're Batman, and you got to shoot the Joker, and then you're well, now I feel empty.
Yeah, exactly.
Those slot cam contracts, $1 under the limit for review, cause fuck my privacy. Damn. Speaking of military violence, I heard a shocking fact on the American experience. At the time of the Kuwait invasion, Iraq had the 4th largest army in the world. Wow. Was that like USA, Russia, China, Iran? It's crazy how long and far back a lot of just the racism. I was gonna say Islamophobia, but just being the Middle East at large as the other in the American imaginary. There was a documentary on fucking. It wasn't a really thoughtful or rigid documentary. It was just a documentary on Nostradamus I was watching with friends from the late 70s with Orson Welles narrating it. And at one point it goes full Christian apocalyptic.
Nice.
And just it has such a scapegoating of just Iran as the Antichrist rising from the east, and the world's gonna end in 1986 because of some bones or some Nostradamus shit that Orson Welles is half checked out of. But it's pre-imagining what your enemies are going to do to you with their power. But I think the lady doth protest too much, you know?
That's fair. Because she usually is.
Defend, everybody!
It explains the above-mentioned tendency of modern law to divest the individual, at least as a legal subject, of all violence, even that directed only to natural ends. In The Great Criminal, this violence confronts the law with the threat of declaring a new law, a threat that even today, despite its impotence, in important instances, horrifies the public, as it did the primeval times. I was like, where did I leave off? And it's like, right, I brought up the impotence of the January 6thers, is like, even if they had like gotten more violent with it, like what would their ultimate ends have been?
There was nothing.
This is not me defending or apologizing. Those guys are stupid asshole dumbasses. I'm not telling you to like consider them cool or anything like that. I just want to bring it up.
Yeah. If that wasn't clear.
They are an interesting intersection, though, this fetishization of violence with the consumer mindset of like speaking to the manager. Like that's what that fit was that day. Yeah. It was like, I need to speak to your area manager with guns and flags.
I remember all of the conversations of like the Boogaloo.
Iran was seriously hurting from their fight with Iraq. Talking about Kuwait. Yeah, I'm thinking back now to the Gulf War and like when we read the Baudrillard during the Toy Soldiers of Spring. And just him talking about the new global sense of like, this is not a war, this is a police action to bring the Islamic world into heel with the global economy.
Look, we don't want to.
And part of like a feature of that was the Iraq-Iran fighting as like a
All of you, consider it done. Defend!
I'll be here.
intentional like weakening, sabotaging of forces. The state, however, fears this violence simply for its lawmaking character, being obliged to acknowledge it as lawmaking whenever external powers force it to concede them to the right to conduct warfare, and classes the right to strike. If in the last war the critique of military violence was the starting point for a passionate critique of violence in general, which taught at least one thing, that violence is no longer exercised and tolerated naively, nevertheless the violence was not only subject to criticism for its lawmaking character, but was also judged, perhaps more annihilatingly, for another of its functions. For duality in the function of violence is characteristic of militarism, which could only come into being through general conscription. Militarism is the compulsory universal use of violence as a means to the ends of the state. This compulsory use of violence has recently been scrutinized as closely as, or still more closely than, the use of violence itself. In it, violence shows itself in a function quite different from its simple application for natural ends. It consists in the use of violence as a means of legal ends. For subordination of citizens to laws, in the present case to the law of general conscription, is a legal end. If that first function of violence is called the law-making function, this second will be called the law-preserving function. Since conscription is a case of law-preserving violence, that is not in principle distinguished from others. A really effective critique of it is far less easy than the declamations of pacifists and activists suggest. Rather, such a critique coincides with the critique of all legal violence, that is, with the critique of legal or executive force, and cannot be performed by any lesser program. Nor, of course, unless one is prepared to proclaim the quite childish anarchism, is it achieved by refusing to acknowledge any constraint towards persons and declaring, what pleases is permitted. Such a maxim merely excludes reflection on the moral and historical spheres, and thereby on any meaning in action, and beyond this on any meaning in reality itself, which cannot be constituted if action is removed from its sphere. More important is the fact that even the appeal, so frequently attempted, to the categorical imperative, which its doubtless incontestable minimum program, act in such a way that at all times you use your humanity both in your person and in the person of all others as an end, and never merely as a means, is in itself inadequate for such a critique. For positive law, if conscious of its roots, will certainly claim to acknowledge and promote the interest of mankind in the person of each individual. It sees this interest in the representation and preservation of an order imposed by fate. While this view, which claims to preserve law on its very basis, cannot escape criticism, nevertheless all attacks that are made by merely the same name as a formless freedom without being able to specify this higher order of freedom remain impotent against it. And most impotent of all when, instead of attacking the legal system root and branch, they impugn particular laws or legal practices that the law, of course, takes under protection of its power, which resides in the fact that there is only one fate and that what exists, and in particular what threatens, belongs inviolably in its order. For law-preserving violence is a threatening violence, and its threat is not intended as the deterrent that uninformed liberal theorists interpret it to be. A deterrent in the exact sense would require certainty that contradicts the nature of a threat and is not attained by any law, since there is always hope of eluding its arm. This makes it all the more threatening, like fate, on which depends whether the criminal is apprehended. The deepest purpose of the uncertainty of the legal threat will emerge from the later consideration of the sphere of fate in which it originates. There is a useful pointer to it in the sphere of punishments. Among them, since the validity of positive law has been called into question, capital punishment has provoked more criticism than all others. However superficial the arguments may in most cases have been, their motives were and are rooted in principle. The opponents of these critics felt, perhaps without knowing why and probably involuntarily, that an attack on capital punishment assails, not legal measure, not laws, but law itself in its origin. Like, if the law doesn't have the power to kill, does it have power?
Stand your ground. Regroup. You heard me.
For if violence crowned by fate, is the origin of law, then it may be readily supposed that where the highest violence, that over life and death occurs in the legal system, the origins of law jump manifestly and fearsomely into existence. In agreement with this is the fact that the death penalty in primitive legal systems is imposed even for such crime as offenses against property, to which it seems quite out of proportion. Its purpose is not to punish the infringement of law, but to establish new law. For in the exercise of violence over life and death, more than any other legal act, law reaffirms itself. But in this very violence, something rotten in law is revealed, above all to a finer sensibility, because the latter knows itself to be infinitely remote from conditions in which fate might imperiously have shown itself in such a sentence. Reason must, however, attempt to approach such conditions all the more resolutely, if it is to bring to conclusion its critique of both lawmaking and law-preserving violence. Yeah, do you think it's natural law to have to... is trespassing natural? Do you think parking meters would exist if not constructed for various purposes? Like, do you think that's a naturally forming sprout of justice that God just makes in the world, Jacob?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I haven't really considered.
Have you considered how badly we need to let interest rates go up because they're very real things with feelings we must abide for some reason?
It's true, it's natural law.
Why any country is permitted to conduct violence on its citizens to enforce law remains confusing to me. Couldn't there ever be a government on it? Yeah, it is very funny, John, that it's like, cool, who's our sovereign? It's like, why don't we let the death monster rule us and it gets to decide who to kill? Yeah, that just brings to mind, I've been thinking again, because when we were reading Pedagogy of the Oppressed, he brought up, I believe it was Erich Fromm, has the necrophilis, which is like the mind that like saps all the like human, it's like the anti-dialogical monster that reduces all dialogue and all interactions to like facts and figures and like static things rather than interactive dialogical things. You know, the oppressor would be like the necrophilis, and yeah, I think of the necrophilis as a movie monster, and this idea of like, well, who do we put in charge? It's like, oh, we let the necrophilis rule. It's like, well, what the fuck's the necrophilis?
Yeah.
Like, don't say his name. Please don't say his name.
Please don't
like,
say it, that will only summon him.
Yeah.
Like, what? Why are we, what?
We all go inside when the streetlights come on. Why? Because that's when the necrophilis comes out. Like, god damn it, I thought you said don't say his name. Why do you only say his name when it sounds threatening? Like,
Yeah. What are we doing?
What are we doing?
Surely we may never know.
What do you mean we let the Trumpist pedophilus run things? What?
Yeah, what are you talking
What are you talking about? Everyone's required to carry a 20-sided die, and at any time you could randomly be checked by an authority figure, and you must roll for your fate. Yeah.
Fuck.
God damn it, don't say it a fourth time. Like, he's got real sensitive ears.
Oh, he already heard you the first time. Oh no.
Oh, shit.
No. Oh no. Please stop. Guys. My friends.
So yeah, let's be careful not to talk too much about the necrophiles here on Technopoverty. I'm scared that shit's gonna be real.
It's gonna be a tulpa we accidentally,
You're right.
we're gonna tulpify.
This is the shit that's like, oh yeah, this is why Stephen King wrote like in the intro to the Tommyknockers, like Tommyknockers are real. This is why every time I'm like, yeah, vampires are real. Like,
Thank you guys.
we were talking about that with Pedagogy of the Oppressed, because in educating as an oppressor, you're turning facts into things. You're stripping the human out of it. This is part of the necrophilus function. The necrophilus, we're talking about Benjamin, there's a concept he has called the angel of history that's kind of the opposite of necrophilus, and what Benjamin's talking about is the person who can like raise themselves above the historical context of like what's like historically like seen as fate or whatever within the context of their time, and like actually like affect that moment and like do something on the ground. Where the necrophilus is completely detaching and categorizing everything and sitting in the chair. The angel of history is like cogently able to take strains of culture and thought and like, you know, logistics and actually make something happen in the present moment because they have their hands on the ground and they're like in tune with the human. I don't, like, if I wanted to cosplay it, I have a very creepy idea of the necrophilus. I've been thinking of when we read the Thomas Hawes story earlier. I don't think it was Cretans. Cretans was the stalking one. When we read Window Boy, this is what I think of when I think of the necrophilus. The Window Boy story we read, Jacob, where the kid's on the monitor talking to the dude outside, and at first you think he's just like looking out the window talking to someone, but then as it gets more and more rude, you're like, oh, he's like underground on the monitor looking above, and like there's like monsters that the camera's consciously filtering out. I picture the necrophilus as like a big like 10-foot tall, you know the shadow monster from Resident Evil 9 that like runs away in the dark, the big lady who only goes around in the shadows? The necrophilus looks something like that. It's a big tall man with like long wiry hair, and he just has arms that he just grabs you with. You never really see his face because he only comes out when it's dark outside. The hands just kind of come down. He's maybe like 12 feet tall, so the arms just kind of come out like, if you've seen The Odyssey, the Cyclops, the way the Cyclops emerges from the shadows and just grabs people and you don't see the whole body. It's something like that.
Yeah, creepy as fuck.
So you better be home before 8 p.m. and you better be watching Friends when it comes on at 8:30 p.m. CST with your Hungry Man microwave meal. And you better be rage posting about the next MCU movie by 9:30 p.m. CST after you've talked a bit about Friends with your friends on the
True, they
forums.
put a lot of money into the marketing. You better be talking about it. It better have made you want to
And if you don't have a subscription to at least 3 streaming services, hey buddy, the necrophilus is coming for you.
It's true.
In a far more unnatural combination than in the death penalty, in a kind of spectral mixture, these two forms of violence are present in another institution of the modern state, the police. True, this violence for legal ends and the right of disposition, but with the simultaneous authority to decide these ends itself within the wide limits, and the right decree, the ignominy of such an authority, which is felt by few simply because the ordinances suffice only... The ignominy of such an authority, which is felt by few simply because its ordinances suffice only seldom for the crudest acts, but are therefore allowed to rampage all the more blindly in the most vulnerable areas and against thinkers from whom the state is not protected by law. What? Wait, the cops do what? They're allowed to rampage all the more blindly in the most vulnerable areas and against thinkers from whom the state is not protected by law? This ignominy lies in the fact that in this authority, the separation of lawmaking and law-preserving violence is suspended. If the first is required to prove its worth in victory, the second is subject to the restriction that it may not set itself new ends. Police violence is emancipated from both conditions. It is lawmaking, for its characteristic function is not the promulgation of laws, but the assertion of legal claims for any decree, and law preserving, because it is at the disposal of these ends. The assertion that the ends of police violence are always identical or even connected to those of general law is entirely untrue. Rather, the law of the police really marks the point at which the state, whether from the impotence or because of the imminent connection within any legal system, can no longer guarantee through the legal system the empirical ends that it desires at any price to attain. Yeah, cops are where the empiricism of the law ends. Whatever is written on paper, it is that human judgment at the end of that long chain of edicts and things. Therefore, the police intervene for security reasons in countless cases where no clear legal situation exists. When they are not merely, without the slightest relation to legal ends, accompanying the citizen as a brutal encumbrance through a life regulated by ordinances, or simply supervising him. Unlike law, which acknowledges in the decision determined by place and time a metaphysical category that's given to it a claim of critical evaluation, a consideration of the police institution encounters nothing essential at all. Its power is formless. Like its nowhere tangible, all-pervasive, ghostly presence in the life of civilized states. And though the police may, in particulars, everywhere appear the same, it cannot finally be denied that their spirit is less devastating where they represent, in absolute monarchy, the power of a ruler in which legislative and executive supremacy are united, than in democracies where their existence, elevated by no such relation, bears witness to the greatest conceivable degeneration of violence. All violence as a means is either lawmaking or law-preserving. If it lays claim to neither of these predicates, it forfeits all validity. It follows, however, that all violence as a means, even in the most favorable case, is implicated in the problematic nature of law itself. And if the importance of these problems cannot be assessed with certainty at this stage of the investigation, law nevertheless appears, from what has been said, in so ambiguous a moral light that the question poses itself whether there are no other than violent means for regulating conflicting human interests. We are above all obligated to note that a totally non-violent resolution of conflicts can never lead to a legal contract. For the latter, however peacefully it may have been entered into by the parties, leads finally to possible violence. It confers on both parties the right to take recourse to violence in some form against the other, should he break the agreement. Not only that, like the outcome, the origin of every contract also points towards violence. It need not be directly present in it as lawmaking violence, but is represented in it insofar as the power that guarantees a legal contract is in turn of violent origin, even if violence is not introduced into the contract itself. When the consciousness of the latent presence of violence in a legal institution disappears, the institution falls into decay. In our time, parliaments provide an example of this. They offer the familiar woeful... Damn. I'm just like thinking about the Democratic Party and how they're failing to meet the moment, and like it's already it's gone. Like
yeah, oh yeah, no, it's any and all.
The surrender is already just self-evident within the lack of enforcing any kind of violence. I mean,
listen, buddy, we're gonna
get later in the essay. It may not. I don't mean violence in the sense of like. What I mean is we're within the realm where it's like, okay, the power structure is like coming on down on you, buddy, for the sake of your own survival. Are you going to act in some sort of self-defense?
Never.
Some sort of self-preservation? I mean, I bring that up, but like the self-preservation is to like float down the center because they're just collecting money, you know? Like this is why when it's talked about that liberalism slides into fascism, like liberals really need to understand it's not like you suddenly become possessed by the One Ring and you change your moral character. It's that your priorities and fealty to like number go up. Have you siding with the people who are going to use violence to protect and perpetuate like property law. We watched The Damned quite a while ago. That might be one worth throwing back on again. The 60s movie by Luchino Visconti, the Italian filmmaker. It's a 60s movie about a family in 1930s Germany of steel magnates, and they're all on the surface, these socially progressive, like liberal-minded Germans running a steel foundry in the 1930s. But slowly over the course of the movie, they cave.
Nice.
The government wants both a monopoly and a monopsony on violence, where it's both exclusively the buyer and the seller. ICE being the latest innovation of crowdsourcing things. Yeah, we brought up the Port Veneer massacre, Texas Rangers coming in investigating ICE, but like, I'm sure there's regional police forces a la the Texas Rangers in other parts of the state. I know California has its own horrid history of what it did to the native population there. I have been meaning to, because this always happens on podcasts when Mounties are brought up. I hear Mounties have some real fucked up history in Canada. And given what I've heard about what happened with Canada historically, what they've done to their native populations, it seems pretty bleak.
Oh, true. We actually also had a hand in that. There's some MK Ultra connections on that one too, as I have come to find out.
Curious and curiouser.
Yeah, listen, America loves having its hand in hurting children. It's probably our #1 export. This is violence against children.
I mean, yeah, violence is a means of maximizing profit as well. That is something I think about with like some of the framing around like the Epstein papers. Like, yes, we want to have the evidence and the chain of title as far as what happened, but like, as far as like Israel having Jeffrey Epstein hold our politicians in blackmail, I think even without the blackmail, these systems of violence like would find the leaders that want to just do the thing, like assaulted children or not. I mean, that's also the more horrifying thing. Is it's like it's not just that they hedonistically enjoy doing these things to children. Some of them just don't mind that it happens to children as they ascend. As they ascend other ways. I think DJT, for instance, is one of those. Like, I don't think he particularly likes or
I know he's definitely.
Well, no, because he said shit about like. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like it's the violence fetishizing and like the power fetishizing more than the sexual fetish. Like some people, they lean more towards like.
Oh yes, yeah.
They want to assault the flesh, and someone to possess the flesh, someone to destroy the flesh. I think Trump leans more towards destroying the flesh. I think he's a bit too much of a germaphobe to enjoy possessing the flesh. Like the flesh is a bit too dirty. It needs to be torched and removed from his equation, I think.
Yeah. Party cam is extra wide.
TECHNOPOVERTY. Oh, did it go wide? Are we?
Man. Look at Henry's really got the actual muscle. What?
Also, oh yeah, Barney abandoned us, huh? We've been
kind of like right at the beginning. The girlfriend has some friends over, and Barney likes to go and party with them. So that's where we're all left, unfortunately. You see where we all rank with Barney.
Oh, okay. We were talking about the do-nothing Democrats, right.
Yeah.
The do-nothing Democrats.
The Democrats. You see what I did?
I hate that he uses Democrats. That's who gave him that word. That's all. It's not good at all.
It's not funny. It's not creative. There's nothing about this.
Even within his own stupid vernacular, it lacks the kind of style. It doesn't sound like his own word. It sounds like.
It sounds like a 3-year-old maybe.
It's like it definitely sounds like crowdsourced from like 12-year-olds on the internet. Cenobites entered the chat. True. I was talking about the possessing the flesh versus destroying the flesh, and what if it's all just sex?
Whoa, it can't all be.
When the consciousness of the latent presence of violence in a legal institution disappears, the institution falls into decay. In our time, parliaments provide an example of this. They offer the familiar, woeful spectacle because they have not remained conscious of the revolutionary forces to which they owe their existence. God damn, can somebody read this to Hakeem Jeffries? I mean, I'm acting like he doesn't know, but like he knows, come on.
He may not actually. He does seem kind of fucking dumb. It's like, oh, we.
Or like the at our table guy who got really mad after the Zoran candidate sweep, and he was like, "Don't come asking for our resources." It's like, you don't seem to have a lot of resources to begin, my dude. They offered the familiar, woeful spectacle because they have not remained conscious of the revolutionary forces to which they owe their existence. Accordingly, in Germany in particular, the last manifestation of such forces bore no fruit for parliaments. They lack the sense that the lawmaking violence is represented by themselves. No wonder that they cannot achieve decrees worthy of this violence, but cultivate and compromise a supposedly non-violent manner of dealing with political affairs. Yeah, this leads back into the oppressor-oppressed mindset, and particularly like the whole model minority. I'm just a hardworking X, or like, don't mind me, I'm just this stereotypical adherent minority of a type. Like, you can just drop me at this point in the Excel spreadsheet. Like, I'm in this vocabulary bucket of your banking education model. This remains, however, a product situated within the mentality of violence, no matter how it may disdain all open violence, because the effort towards compromise is motivated not internally, but from outside, by the opposing effort, because no compromise, no matter how freely accepted, is conceivable without a compulsive character. It would be better otherwise is the underlying feeling in every compromise. Significantly, the decay of parliaments has perhaps alienated as many minds from the ideal of a non-violent resolution of political conflicts as were attracted to it by the war. The pacifists are confronted by the Bolsheviks and the syndicalists. These have effected an annihilating and on the whole apt critique of present-day parliaments. Nevertheless, however desirable and gratifying a flourishing parliament might be by comparison, a discussion of means of political agreement that are in principle non-violent cannot be concerned with parliamentarianism. For what parliament achieves in vital affairs can only be by those legal decrees that in their origin and outcome are attended by violence. This reminds me too, I was listening to some news story on how the Trump administration is trying to get certain, things like the PSL and the DSA and left-leaning political organizations and community groups that get people active and motivated in conversation and active on, the good leftist stuff. The Trump administration, there's no actual legal definition of like a domestic terrorist group, but there's like foreign terrorist organizations, which is why there's so much like hubbub about like getting like the DSA and others on the FTO list.
Which is just fucking stupid.
But like, listen to how much language about the DSA coverage coming out now is like, oh, these leftists, like, oh, they're violent, they're radicals. It's like, well, like, everybody can see, obviously, like, no, that's not what's going on. But like, the appeal to violence is because they're plucking at that string of the American subconscious, that Latin idea of like, hey, we might need to go Kyle Rittenhouse on these guys to preserve systems.
Yeah,
the compulsion of it.
We need the system.
Which is why you have to, I don't know, like, why like voting can't be the be all end all, like, total individual act thing. There's like consistent and constant like vigilance type stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's also just like you have to keep like you have to make sure that systems are doing the thing. You have to participate in the thing.
Yeah. It gets to like, why do you vote the people? Well, why do you vote the people in power who are like undermining the government? It's like, hey, the government doesn't work. Elect me to work for the government. And like, yeah, to a degree, there's like the distance of like the undereducated that's appealing to, and like the right-wing voters like being exploited in the culture war sense. But also, a lot of that is just, damn, what's happening upstairs?
Christ. Sorry, you said.
I learned from Boy that Australia's parliament has a bar. Imagine how wild the house would be with drinks. I mean, I'm not trying to like snark this down, Jaw, but like they all just go to bars in DC anyway, don't they? Like,
it's all of them, dude. Like they're all just trying to be cool guys. Like,
I mean,
everything is trying to be like, it's all boys club of like, oh.
Yeah, what Benjamin's bring up here were like they don't recognize like the compulsory, like the violence of the previous establishing like forces, and how they're just like Yeah, they're just wanting to do what, like, they wanted to be, like, patted on the head by their dads for doing, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I get to finally do the West Wing monologue. I've been preparing my West Wing monologue. Like, I get to,
Yeah.
I get to reenact the West Wing with the boys.
Just like I've always wanted.
Is any nonviolent resolution of conflict possible? Without doubt, the relationships of private persons are full of examples of this. Nonviolent agreement is possible wherever a civilized outlook allows the use of unalloyed means of agreement. Legal and illegal means of every kind that are all the same violent may be confronted with nonviolent ones as unalloyed means. Courtesy, sympathy, peaceableness, trust, and whatever else might be here mentioned are their subjective preconditions. Their objective manifestation, however, is determined by the law, the enormous scope of which cannot be discussed here. That unalloyed means are never those of direct, but always those of indirect solutions. They therefore never apply directly to the resolution of conflict between man and man, but only to manners concerning objects. The sphere of nonviolent means opens up in the realm of human conflicts relating to goods. For this reason, technique in the broadest sense of the word is their most particular area. Its profoundest example is perhaps the conference, considered as a technique of civil agreement. For in it, not only is nonviolent agreement possible, but also the exclusion of violence in principle is quite explicitly demonstrable by one significant factor. There's no sanction for lying. Probably no legislation on earth originally stipulated such a sanction. This makes clear that there is a sphere of human agreement that is non-violent to the extent that it is wholly inaccessible to violence, the proper sphere of understanding language. Only late and in peculiar process of decay has it been penetrated by legal violence in the penalty placed on fraud. Only late in a peculiar process of decay has it been penetrated by legal violence in the penalty placed on fraud. For whereas the legal system at its origin, trusting to its victorious power, is content to defeat law-breaking wherever it happens to show itself, and deception, having itself no trace of power about it, was on principle us civile, vigilantibus scriptum us, exempt from punishment in Roman and ancient Germanic law, the law of the later period. Lacking confidence in its own violence, no longer felt itself a match for that of all others. Rather, fear of the latter and mistrust of itself indicate its declining vitality. It begins to set itself its ends, with the intention of sparing law-preserving violence more taxing manifestations. It turns to fraud, therefore, not out of moral considerations, but for the fear of violence that might unleash in the defrauded party. Since such fear conflicts with the violent nature of law derived from its origins, such ends are inappropriate into the justified means of law. They reflect not only the decay of its own sphere, but also a diminution of pure means. For in prohibiting fraud, law restricts the use of wholly nonviolent means because they can produce reactive violence. This tendency of law has also played a part in the concession of the right to strike, which contradicts the interest of the state. It grants this right because it forestalls violent actions the state is afraid to oppose. Did not workers previously resort at once to sabotage and set fire to factories? To induce men to reconcile their interests peacefully without involving the legal system, there is, in the end, apart from all virtues, one effective motive that often enough puts into the most reluctant hands pure instead of violent means. It is the fear of mutual disadvantages that threaten to arise from violent confrontation, whatever the outcome might be. Yeah, like, they have to be scared of that strike.
Yep.
Whatever the outcome might be, such motives are clearly visible in countless cases of conflict of interest between private persons. It is interesting what he brings up about fraud, though, as a later developing law, but one where it's like, instead of it just being like, oh, you do this, you get executed. You do this, you get executed. You do this, you get executed. It's like, don't do this, because later down the line, we don't want violence happening. All those other ones are like, do this, violence happens. Do this, violence happens. Like, that is a neat shift, and it's interesting what that says about the underlying violence. It is different when classes and nations are in conflict, since the higher orders that threaten to overwhelm equally victor and vanquished are hidden from the feelings of most, and from the intelligence of almost all. Space does not here permit me to trace such higher orders and the common interests corresponding to them, which constitute the most enduring motive for a policy of pure means. We can therefore only point to pure means in politics as analogous to those which govern peaceful intercourse between private persons. Okay, we're only talking about peaceful intercourse here between private persons, guys.
Of course. Of course.
Like he is getting to something about the scale of nations that is valid and worth considering, and something we're always talking about here between the difference between the micro and the macro level of the structure, and like how things affect you on an individual level. That's a lot of dudes, by the way, speaking of individuals and the macro.
Scout that area. Take him out.
As regards class struggles, in them strike must under certain conditions be seen as a pure means. Two essentially different kinds of strike, the possibilities of which have already been considered, must now be more fully characterized. Sorel has the credit, from political rather than purely theoretical considerations, of having first distinguished them. He contrasts them as the political and the proletarian general strike. They are also anti-ethical in their relation to violence. Of the partisans of the former, he says, the strengthening of state power is the basis of their consumptions. In their present organizations, the politicians, viz. The moderate socialists, are already preparing the ground for a strong, centralized, and disciplined power that will be impervious to criticism from the opposition, capable of imposing silence and of issuing its mendacious decrees. The political general strike demonstrates how the state will lose none of its strength, how power is transferred from the privileged to the privileged, how the mass of producers will change their masters. In contrast to this political general strike, which incidentally seems to have been summed up by the abortive German Revolution, the proletarian general strike sets itself the sole task of destroying state power. It nullifies all the ideological consequences of every possible social policy. Its partisans see even the most popular reforms as bourgeois. This general strike clearly announces its indifference toward the material gain through the conquest by declaring its intention to abolish the state. The state was really the basis of the existence of the ruling group, who in all their enterprises benefit from the burdens borne by the public. While the first form of interruption of work is violent since it causes only an external modification of labor conditions, the second, as a pure means, is non-violent, for it takes place not in readiness to resume work following external concessions and this or that modification to working conditions, but in the determination to resume only a wholly transformed work, no longer enforced by the state, an upheaval that this kind of strike not so much causes as consummates. For this reason, the first of these undertakings is lawmaking, but the second is anarchistic. Taking up occasional statements by Marx, Sorel rejects every kind of program of utopia, in a word, of lawmaking, for the revolutionary movement. With the general strike, all these fine things disappear. The revolution appears as a clear, simple revolt, and no place is reserved either for the sociologists or for the elegant amateurs of social reforms, or for the intellectuals who have made it their profession to think for the proletariat. Against this deep moral and genuinely revolutionary conception, no objection can stand that seeks, on grounds of its possibly catastrophic consequences, to brand such a general strike as violent. Even if it can rightly be said that the modern economy, seen as a whole, resembles much less a machine that stands idle when abandoned by its stoker than a beast that goes berserk as soon as its tamer turns its back, nevertheless the violence of an action can be assessed no more from its effects than from its ends, but only from the law of its means. State power, of course, which is eyes only for effects, opposes precisely this kind of strike for its alleged violence, as distinct from partial strikes which are for the most part actually extortionate. As distinct from partial strikes which are for the most part actually extortionate. Yeah, the partial strike is extortionate because you're just looking like, hey, can we keep doing this, but I'm the manager now?
Yeah.
This is what Camus distinguishes when he's talking about revolutionary and the rebel. You know, where the revolutionary just wants to turn the wheel and be on the top now, whereas the rebel actually wants to break down the system and, like, construct something new. I rebel, therefore we are. Like, the reason I'm drawing this line as a rebel is because I think this is a common line we should share as far as, like, what human dignity is. The extent to which such a rigorous conception of the general strike as such is capable of diminishing the incidence of actual violence in revolutions, Sorel has explained with highly ingenious arguments. By contrast, an outstanding example of violent omission, more immoral and cruder than the political general strike, akin to a blockade, is the strike by doctors, such as several German cities have seen. And this is revealed at its most repellent and unscrupulous use of violence that is positively depraved in a professional class that for years, without the slightest attempts at resistance, secured death its prey, and then, at the first opportunity, abandoned the life of its own free will. More clearly than in recent class struggles, the means of nonviolent agreement have developed in thousands of years in the history of states. Only occasionally does the task of diplomats and their transactions consist of modifications to legal systems. Fundamentally, they have, entirely on the analogy of agreement between private persons to resolve conflicts case by case in the names of their states, peacefully and without contracts. A delicate task that is more robustly performed by referees, but a method of solution that in principle is above that of the referee because it's beyond all legal systems, and therefore beyond violence. Accordingly, like the intercourse of private persons, that of diplomats has engendered its own forms and virtues, which were not always mere formalities, even though they have become so. Alright, I'm going to pause on the reading, and we're going to go to a break in a moment here, once you're feeling comfortable with it, Jacob.
Yeah.
Search over there. Observe and report activity.
I'm gonna hang on because this.
What is currently on you?
You know, I keep trying to get. Right now, we're trying to invade the propaganda TV station.
Oh, you're gonna go where the news lady actually is?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
We've taken out most of the squad, but I keep fucking up because I gotta save after this little interaction. I gotta save, so I'm gonna keep hating running back to this area to make sure that it's taken care of. Do we do it, guys? Are they dead? Excellent job. You? Anyone?
Really managing the team today.
Yeah, absolutely.
See, you're no longer a plumber working with your brother having to, like, shovel the shit. You're a manager.
Fall back. Get
Wow, the revolution really worked for you.
This just makes me think of, like, remember when, like, the Taliban was so happy that they won? They were, like, celebrating shooting guns and, like, riding boats, and then now they're just, like, have office jobs.
Oh yeah, when Biden did the withdrawal, and there are those tweets where they're like, "Oh, office life's not that great."
Yeah, like, shit, dude. I actually kind of like just being with the boys shooting.
Or the rebel uses techniques documented as effective all the way back to 1944. Would work slowing be classified as economic violence against the oppressors? Simple sabotage field manual by United States Office of Strategic Services. Considering the overproduction we have right now, I don't think work slowing would, especially because in the power of balance there, like the producers and the owners have the cops on their side.
Yeah.
I don't think there's actually a lot of work going on in the United States. If you have a real work job and you're like, I do recognize you. What I'm saying though is so much is botted, so much on Kalshi. The meme of email jobs. I mean, I believe Graeber wrote Bullshit Jobs and was kind of on about this. How much, like, it's so much circular and hollow stuff that doesn't really need to get done in a day.
Also, like, the CIA and, like, the Pentagon get, like, $9 trillion. I'm sure they're using a lot of that to keep things afloat.
Right. At a certain scale, like, money's just not real, stops mattering. That's why, like, on their end, like, they can just print more.
Yeah. And they can just print more. It was like, we can't just do that, and then they print more. Well, you know. It's over this one time.
Get back here. Team.
There's another case I was going to bring up about ongoing, like, labor stuff where it's like, was this be considered violence? But I lost it because I saw you directing dudes, and I'm curious if you'll get into the studio before we break.
Let's see.
Let's go.
I was reading some stories on just like grocery purchasing and consumption habits. Consumption is down, folks.
What? That's so strange. But
On
I'm so flush
food.
with cash.
And I mean, is that extortive? Is that violent?
Do it.
What the macro structure is doing right now, and was acting against that in self-defense justified? guess the ends would be called into question. What is the answers? What are you looking for?
Yeah, what do we gain?
Because this is kind of the big question of like, what are you looking for? Because so many people right now express violence towards their political, like those they dislike politically, and like valid, understood. But like that has to take you somewhere. Like there has to be a program at the end so that it's not just like an extortive, like I'm gonna throw a fit until like the same thing's happening with like a nicer mask on it. The strike doesn't cause or kick off, it consummates, is the phrase I really liked keying in there right at the end.
Pull out! Move!
Yeah. I think that's something we're gonna have to see with the DSA as we have more and more candidates across the board. Hope Abdul Al-Sayed wins up in Michigan. I didn't know much about that race, but I saw his opponent, the Democrat lady, and like, we're like the cool kids all chattering online at the cool kids table. Lady, like
girl,
how long have you been out of high school and you still think like that?
That's their entire life.
You are an elected, you're in a Clinton ass pantsuit at a podium at like an official state thing. And you're doing voice bits, like I'm sure I can look up other videos of you speaking, and you're not doing those bits, and you're not like trying to do like the hello fellow kids. They're making fun of like the cool kids or coastal elites online making fun of us, but you know what? They're actually making fun of Michigan. It's like you're actually being very cynical about like what appeals to your voters. You're being very demeaning to your own people.
Yeah, you're not helping anyone.
Victory Gardens again.
All right, let's send you folks. All right, men to your death. That way, you'll do that. Let's see what they got. I'll go this way. Yeah, sounds pretty bad.
That's pretty fine, just running parallel to them.
Yeah,
I like that.
It's really fun. That's what I was doing earlier. It was like, oh, there's a giant tank over there. Oh, hey, what's up, dude? Look.
Take it
Give you a little snack.
Yeah, the APAC contest, Jaw. I don't get right-wing mailers or anything here in Texas, but I hear Ken Paxton like just straight up was using AI.
Oh yeah.
To like do some Tellurico bashing. Like my fate's decided there. I know who I'm going for, obviously.
Yeah, I don't support anyone who supports pedophiles, so.
Yeah, I can't get through to the Paxton office. I've tried calling the office of the Attorney General, and I've tried calling his campaign office, and it's just always straight to machine. And I'm like, well, do I have to commit a crime to get fast-tracked to being your friend so you'll talk to me, Ken?
Right.
I just want to know your T levels.
You just want to know how much you can bench. Actually, this way to go, sorry.
Yeah, don't get your men killed, Odysseus.
Stand your
We're
ground,
done.
everybody.
Wait, did we kill him? No. Wait, maybe we did. Okay, cool. All right, well, let's just do that. I got his gun. That's all. That's the really big thing, guys, is that I got his gun.
Explain these games.
Get back here, squad.
Man, they're just all shooting through each other. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's pretty great. All right, cool. We got him.
Real weekend warrior formations here. I love it.
He was the guy who fucked me up last time. So I was like, man. Just throw a couple grenades that way.
Report any activity. Do it.
I'll heal our buddy there real quick. You're just hanging out. Okay, cool.
Oh, I do think another one of those wanting to be taken seriously, taking itself seriously things is this game in comparison to Fugitive Hunter War on Terror, which we played last July for 4th of July. But Fugitive Hunter War on Terror, it's like, well, it's about terrorism and fighting terrorism, so you have to take it seriously. And that game was so hinging on the imagery and like the mood and the climate at the time. It's just the most cynical cash-in on all the post 9/11 jingoism.
I mean, you got to.
Whereas like this is like, yeah, it's not really thinking about the politics in any sense, and it is the fetishization of like violence as the revolutionary thing, but it is like a playable game, you know what I mean? I'm thinking about how on Fugitive Hunter how like we got stuck on that one level where you had to like crouch and go through a hole in the jungle.
Yes, we had no idea.
And it took us like a fucking hour to figure out what the fuck was going on there.
Yeah, that was a rough one. All right, I think we're pretty. Where we at?
Just like such poor design.
It's like, God damn it. All right. Boys, you know it to your death. Go in there, defend it. Thank you. Clear the run. Perfect. All right. I'll go down there too. I do love the shells that come out whenever I'm shooting as well. Like,
yeah, that character. I would really love to see this on like, I know it had an Xbox release. It wasn't on the PS2. I just want to see like this on like a console lagging because there's so many dudes on screen at once.
Right.
I know like so many gamers like it's like it has to be 65 frames per second or I'm not looking at it. It's like sometimes I like when there's jank.
I also do too. It makes
like
me
I get
kind of
like
feel like
I get
it's
that during
getting
fighting
crazy.
games and online stuff, but like sometimes like if I don't mind when a performance chugs.
I was gonna say I really liked it in Helldivers 2 sometimes because it would get chaotic and you're like, it's like Saving Private Ryan. You're like, oh no, everything is so intense. It's like, oh, actually my computer just can't do math fast enough. Like me, it can't do math quickly. Ooh,
Oh, there's
not
a
do
bunch
that,
of dudes in
y'all.
there.
For Soviets. You heard me.
Can you quick save wherever?
No.
Okay.
I have to go to those stupid little the plumbers regions. The sewage.
Oh, you have to find the next little manhole?
Yeah.
Got it.
Y'all. Oh shit. Oh.
You're here!
We're
It's-
in this. Whoa! Whoa.
Yeah,
Leo
nice.
DiCaprio meme. Guys, look, it's me. I'm her.
You're so her.
Stand your ground. Everybody.
Stand your
Cover
ground.
me, homies. Let's all photo op.
All of you.
We did it, guys.
Have you seen Polyamory High Caliber Love? Is that a documentary? Is that a movie? Is that a show? Tell me more, Joe. I have not. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Defend. Get moving. Defend this area. Let's go. Let's go.
Thing? Excellent. All right, y'all. We're doing the thing.
Oh, it's a game.
Whoa. Sounds hilarious.
All right, let's go to break.
We did it.
Cool.
Save.
Oh, wait.
New Yorkers, fellow Americans, I am Chris Stone, the so-called Freedom Phantom.
It's me, Chris Stone.
I stand before you today a free
I'm a
man,
Christian,
and
Chris
I
Stone.
vow to die a free man. Like you, my world was shattered 8 long months ago. I watched as my family
8
and
months,
friends
damn.
were
About 7 months
tortured,
ago, you know.
captured, and killed. I have nothing left of my former life, except the hope for a better future. A better future for our children. The American
What do the
dream.
Democrats stand for?
I, for one, still believe in that dream.
The American
We
Dream,
read this in our
like which
school
one?
books as children.
The one
Now
where
is
you're
the time for us to
asleep.
embrace those ideals and stand up against the
Are you
weight
talking
of
about
tyranny.
like the
We have
Jeffersonian
a duty
vision
to
for
ourselves
America or
to
the
throw
Adams
off our
vision for
oppressors.
America?
Let's go Adams.
When I look around this city,
Probably the
I do
Adams.
not see smoldering ruins. No, instead, I see a sleeping army, ready to awaken. The world is watching us now. How we respond will prove our claim. I stand before you and the world today to reaffirm the pledge our forefathers made to each other and for each of us.
Where's like
To protect
the
our
actual
lives,
U.S.
our
government and all
fortune,
this?
And our
I don't know. They've,
self-worth.
been
So I
mysteriously
ask you
absent.
now to take up arms against the evil invaders and yell in their faces that they
He's
will
yelling to
never
nobody.
take our freedom.
Freedom. What up, gnarly? Gnarly.
What are you doing around in this park, Søren? We missed you. It's me, Chris Stone. That's right, I forgot we're no longer in the cool area.
Right, you're no longer in the sewer base, you're in the subway base.
It's true. On this really shitty loud car that's like slow.
Yeah, so you're driving like a truck on the subway rails or something? What
Yeah.
the fuck is this?
I don't know. It's like a terrible version of like the Batcave, you know?
I love the deeply American desire to cosplay as the oppressed, and it stems purely from that America spends all the time as the oppressor. Yeah.
Yeah, dog, but we have to have cool get up. We gotta feel like we're up against someone.
If we're not doing this to you, you're gonna be doing it to us, so we gotta do it like super cool badass guys.
Preemptive attacks.
Preemptive attacks. Alright, speaking of, we're gonna stand up, stretch, be kind to our skeletons, rehydrate. I got some
Yeah,
tea
Jerry.
right off to the left here
Definitely
that I'm gonna
Disney
be drinking
dark
at. Yeah, the Disney dark ride. I will look at polyamory, high caliber in a moment. We will get back to Walter Benjamin's.
White people love to ask themselves, but what if somebody killed my dog and fucked my wife?
Gnarly, yeah. Hollywood.
Every Hollywood movie.
John Wick, but they also fucked his dog. Like, oh no.
Yeah, like, what?
All right, we're going to break. We'll be back in a bit. See you Techno Highs and Dottie soon. All right, we are hot now as we just keep going. Just make it happen. Carry out that revolution.
Oh, Caesar salad. Glad you like the woofer. That's Barney.
Yeah, welcome, first-time chatter. This is Techno Poverty. I'm Henry.
I'm Jacob.
And we're returning from our break time. Techno Poverty is an excuse to play games, read books, bounce the two off each other.
We're a work of parody, but we are not insincere.
No, we're just beings from a parallel dimension, bending our own interspace engine in a hope to get away from the bigwigs. Seems to be working so far. Not a lot to say on that. Is your mic on?
It certainly is now.
There we go. We're reading Walter Benjamin's The Critique of Violence while Jacob makes his way through Freedom Fighters.
I jumped at the end of a conversation that sounded hilarious without context. Hey!
Why, thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm glad that the conversation got you giggling.
I don't even remember what we were talking about. Just turning on the mics with the boys. That's right, 3-2.
Truly. I'm so bad about it. You know what? But I got Henry, and he'll make sure that we can all hear.
Yes, I'm about to get back to the Walter Benjamin, but yeah, we're going to be reading Black Flame by Gretchen and Felker-Martin and talking about that while working through Pipistrello and the Cursed Yo-Yo next Thursday. After that, we'll probably play Mina the Hollower, and the book we're going for is Ursula K. Le Guin's The Lathe of Heaven. So if you're into books, if you're into games, that's what we do here on the channel, all while chatting it and chopping it up with each other. We also watch movies on our Discord. If you want to look into our Patreon and all that, we look at movies associated with, you know, ideas and themes covered both by the books and the games we're going through.
Oh shit, this might be a big part of the game. Wherever may be going.
Show up too, but the dug get tight up here, man. I'm talking heavy guns, minefields, artillery. The real deal is here. Fort J. Now this is where they control the subs and those nukes they carry.
The subs and the
Been
nukes.
there once. We gotta sail out there again. They've
Aw,
got
geez.
Isabella. If we move on them now, they'll just waste her. We don't want that.
So this is like,
Heck, we control most
this is
of
the
New York.
rebellion, huh?
Can't we wait
Yep,
till they
just
leave? You know what I'm saying? Like,
just
let
me
'em
and
go home,
these
just
two
leave the
guys.
back door open,
These
let
aren't my
'em slip out
boys.
quietly.
Two dudes in a gateway from
You're
1998.
tripping.
Yep.
Look, they're here for good.
Came in the
Did you
cow
hear what I'm
box.
saying? They're bringing Major back up. They ain't asking for a ride home. They want to smoke us for show. I'm saying
show.
they fixing a wreck on us, kid. They gonna bust out with their big guns. Did your mama drop you on your head or something? Maybe you shouldn't shoot off your mouth until your brain
Damn,
is
that's
fully loaded.
All right, I get it. No, I'm telling you, this is crazy, kid. I'm only doing this for Isabella. Chris,
No, Joe,
Chris,
it's funny.
Chris, I'm with you. I gotta get in a few shots before the Reds bail out of here. Oh, hey, Junior.
Just
You
love
need
that
to
name
step
too.
aside on this one. It's gonna be a man's job.
Whatever, dog. Yo, Chris, we got some C4 at the base in Yonkers. Way I see it, we got one shot at this. Don't flinch. We gotta step in the ring for a shot at the title.
Punk kids, no respect. Oh, I got brains. I can handle myself.
Okay.
That was.
What a weird way to abruptly end that conversation.
Governor's Island looks like an impenetrable.
Yo, go to Governor's Island.
Oh, so this is just.
You gotta blow a hole in the
Oh, my dad keeps calling. I have to call him a little bit later. He's working on some projects.
All right, back to the Bean Hamines.
Yeah.
Among all the forms of violence permitted by both natural law and positive law, there's not one that is free of the gravely problematic nature already indicated of all legal violence. Since, however, every conceivable solution to human problems... Oh. Is this just a traveling scene?
I don't know. I think this is the last location. So maybe this is the big final whatever. Like we suddenly had an icebreaker ship. It's like 8 of them. We got one of them.
Hardened men. This is cool.
This is pretty. This game does a lot of fun, cool things. It still comes off as silly, but not in a bad way.
I mean, it's a shallow story, but like the cutscenes are well directed. I can follow with very little investment.
Oh, totally.
Like there was that plot twist earlier where the dude was like, "Oh, I was using your group to take out
Yeah.
the general so that I could ascend," and it was like, "Yeah, it's hokey, it's cliche, but it reads."
And it's enough to get
It's
you.
for like 2003 video game. There's some Dutch angling going. Like there's some consideration in this cutscene direction.
Also, the lighting. Like
Yes,
they took a lot of
yeah.
good like contrast. Like there's some really cool stuff happening. Oh no, that's dangerous. Oh no.
Oh no, not the C4.
Luckily, we found tons of it all around, and we're going into a literal battery, which will have tons more. Save me! Luckily, it wasn't me who fucked up, it was someone else. So. C4 pre-workout energy drink. No, my C4, bro!
I mean, I do love me the serial killer flavor. All the flavor of Fruity Pebbles and none of the rice cardboard.
Sometimes you do like that rice cardboard texture. Oh my god, it's cool.
Since, however, every conceivable solution to human problems, not to speak of deliverance from the confines of all the world historical conditions of existence obtaining here too, remains impossible if violence is totally excluded in principle, the question necessarily arises to other kinds of violence than all those envisaged by legal theory. It is at the same time the question of truth of the basic dogma common to both theories. Just ends can be attained by justified means used for just ends. How would it be, therefore, if all the violence imposed by fate, using justified means, were of itself in irreconcilable conflict with just ends, and if at the same time a different kind of violence came into view that certainly could be either the justified or the unjustified means to those ends, but was not related to them as means at all, but in some different way? This would throw light on the curious and at first discouraging discovery of the ultimate insolubility of all legal problems, which in its hopelessness is perhaps comparable only to the possibility of conclusive pronouncements on right and wrong in evolving languages. For it is never reason that decides on the justification of means and the justness of ends, but fate-imposed violence on the former and God on the latter. And insight that is uncommon only because of the stubborn prevailing habit of conceiving those just ends as ends of a possible law, that is, not only is generally valid, which follows analytically from the nature of justice, but also is capable of generalization, which, as can be shown, contradicts the nature of justice. For ends that are for one situation are just, universally acceptable, and valid, are so for no other situation, no matter how similar it may be in other respects. The non-immediate function of violence at issue here is illustrated by everyday experience. As regards man, he is impelled by anger, for example, to the most visible outburst of a violence that is not related as a means to a preconceived end. It is not a means but a manifestation. Moreover, this violence is thoroughly objective manifestations in which it can be subjected to criticism. These are to be found most significantly, above all, in myth. Mythical violence, in its archetypical form, is a mere manifestation of the gods. Not a means to their ends, scarcely a manifestation of their will, but first of all, a manifestation of their existence. The legend of Niobe contains an outstanding example of this. True, it might appear that the action of Apollo and Artemis is only a punishment, but their violence establishes a law far more than it punishes, for the infringement of only one already existing.
Come here. You coming up?
Come here, Barney.
You just want the food.
Barney.
Barney is currently being bribed poorly.
Barney
She wants the
used
food, but
stairs.
she doesn't want to be on TV.
Come on. Barney, come
I
here.
think she just wants to be brought to the food. I don't think she likes the gap between the top stair and the futon. It's a little higher than the top stair when it's by the couch.
Hold on. We're going to put you on camera before you get to eat your snack.
Oh, it's Barney time?
Oh, it's Barney time. Listen, we got it.
Need a matrix to map out all these justified just means and just ends. Yes, true. A whiteboard I could write on.
Oh, yeah, we do have that whiteboard. We could start bringing that out.
Oh, Caesar, this came out in 2003, so a year or two after Metal Gear Solid 2, actually.
Yeah. Oh, shoot.
Oh, there she goes. All right.
Every time. Ah, damn, see?
Can I offer you some scratches?
What do you want, Barney?
True, it might appear that the action of Apollo and Artemis is only a punishment, but their violence establishes a law far more than it punishes for the infringement of one already existing. Niobe's arrogance calls down fate upon itself not because her arrogance offends against the law, but because it challenges fate, to a fight in which fate must triumph, and can bring to light a law only in its triumph. How little such divine violence was to the ancients the law-preserving violence of punishment is shown by the heroic legends in which the hero, for example Prometheus, challenges fate with dignified courage, fights it with varying fortunes, and is not left by the legend without hope of one day bringing a new law to men. It is really this hero and the legal violence of the myth native to him that the public tries to picture even now in admiring the miscreant. Violence therefore burst upon Niobe from the uncertain, ambiguous sphere of fate. It is not actually destructive. Although it brings a cruel death to Niobe's children, it stops short of life of their mother, whom it leaves behind, more guilty than before through the death of the children, both as an eternally mute bearer of guilt and as a boundary stone on the frontier between men and gods. If this immediate violence in mythical manifestations proves closely related, indeed identical to lawmaking violence, it reflects a problematic light on lawmaking violence, insofar as the latter was characterized above in the account of military violence as merely immediate violence.
Here, take this.
At the same time, this connection promises further to illuminate fate, which in all cases underlies legal violence, and to conclude in broad outline the critique of the latter. For the function of violence in lawmaking is twofold, in the sense that lawmaking pursues as its end, with violence as the means, what is to be established as law, but at the moment of instatement does not dismiss violence. Rather, at this very moment of lawmaking, it specifically establishes as law not an end unalloyed by violence, but one necessarily and intimately bound to it, under the title of power. Lawmaking is power-making, and, to that extent, an immediate manifestation of violence. Justice is the principle of all divine in-making, power the principle of all mythical lawmaking. Jacob, your dudes may be strong enough to shoot people, but are they powerful enough dudes to create law?
That, I don't know, actually.
This is what I really like about Deadwood as a show. It's very good at capturing, like, the actual, like, sort of evolutionary process of how, like, the concept of law comes to be and why, like, a group of opportunists, scoundrels, backstabbers, murderers, etc. Just the, like, why, like, people who aren't saints would still do something like form a town. Deadwood is about the growth of a small western settlement into a proper town. And the way they come together and form a constitution and a town council and establish law and order, there's no
it up and go home.
There's no like Christian binary moralists like, oh yes, we need a law and order because that's the way things are. It's like, no, they're all it's a more practical and pragmatic understanding of how the institution of law comes to be.
Here.
Circles your comment, this guy gets it.
Nice.
I think it's J-Reg who does that pretty well, where there's like a whiteboard or a transparent layer between him and the camera, so he's writing on the board on screen. Looks pretty cool.
Oh, nice, yeah.
It would be nice to have a tablet so that I could do like instant replay shit on your play. Like when you're dying, we just have a picture-in-picture going. It's like, well, you see Jacob fucked up here.
Right, here's where he could have gone.
Right,
Which
right.
is most of it. God damn it.
Just be a real John Madden about it. If the player completes the objectives, well, then he beats the level.
If this team wants to win, they're going to want to score more scores than the opposing team.
If Jacob gets more hits in on his opponent, he'll win the game.
The whole operation is futile.
We're doing this the old Navy way. The first guy to die loses.
An application of the latter that has immense consequences is to be found in constitutional law. For in this sphere, the establishing of frontiers, the task of peace after all the wars of the mythical age, is the primal phenomenon of all lawmaking violence. Here we see most clearly that power, more than the most extravagant gain in property, is what is guaranteed by all lawmaking violence. Here we see most clearly that power, more than the most extravagant gain in property, is what is guaranteed by all lawmaking violence.
Recon squad.
You know, I never really thought about that in terms of like
Let's go. Scout ahead. Everybody.
property value, violence value. Like yeah, there's violence enforces property law. But if you don't have the violence to enforce the property law, like I guess like the amount of property you own doesn't matter. This is the kind of the conundrum of like, why are the rich people making bunkers if like money stops being valuable if they can't pay people, you know?
Yeah.
Like your guards are just going to turn on you in the economy, in the way the economic conditions are before like
God damn it, I hate this, but I love this.
you need to worry about the nukes going off. What keeps your bodyguard from just doming you and taking your bomb shelter?
Yeah, which is like, you know, rich people don't think about that stuff until it's too fucking late.
Here we most clearly see that power, more than the most extravagant gain in property, is what is guaranteed by all lawmaking violence. Where frontiers are decided, the adversary is not simply annihilated. Indeed, he is accorded rights even when the victor's superiority in power is complete. And these are, in demonically ambiguous ways, equal rights. For both parties to the treaty it is in the same line that may not be crossed. Here appears, in a terribly primitive form, the same mythical ambiguity of laws that may not be infringed, to which Anatole France refers satirically when he says, "Poor and rich are equally forbidden to spend the night under the bridges."
Oh, I killed neither of them? That sucks. That sucks a lot.
Brother, I do contract work for some law firms and I don't understand how everything keeps running, TPH.
Dude, same. Working in corporate America and dealing with like corporate American men is just like, yeah, I don't know how anyone does anything.
Yeah, so Caesar, I do contract work for YouTube. Like, I'm an editor on various YouTube channels. I've been doing it since like 2018, 2019. I mean, I was doing it even before that, but like, I'm talking about like when I hit the big channels was probably 2018, 2019. I can't recall the exact year. But anyways, I bring that up because like, it feels so fucking fake. Like a dude from another place who may or may not be real. I don't know. No, I've met Mr. Burns. He's a real dude. At least, unless I was a very real actor. I think Michael Burns is real. But like, it's like, oh, people send me data over the internet, and I just reconfigure it and export it as another type of data, and then that goes up somewhere and gets looked at, and then eventually, like, a direct deposit goes into my bank account. I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
How?
I didn't go out, like, it's so detached.
Oh no.
Yeah, Caesar salad. That's something I actually really enjoy about doing, like when I'm in customer service positions, is like at least seeing like the haptic logistics of the supply train at motion. Because I really do admire that kind of stuff. I think Dan Carlin's Hardcore History podcast, it's World War I episodes. If you appreciate logistics, if you enjoy Death Stranding, listen to that particular podcast's recap of World War I, because he really gets across how like industrial logistics were like the new frontier of that particular war, and like how much that was everything.
Defend this area. Come on. Position is around. Team, I'll wait right here. Attack! Take them out. Get moving.
Moving stuff from place to place and just making stuff into different stuff. That's right, L-Man.
Man, brother, that's the name of the fucking game. No. Ah, damn.
We're just ants, like, but we have cars. Like, we figured out combustion engines.
The poor and rich are equally forbidden to spend the night under the bridges. But you all have equal access to health care now. I mean, wait. You all have equal access to health insurance now.
Key differentiator.
We will subsidize everybody within key zip zones who make under this amount of money within this type of urban property. Everything's just means tested to shit. Yeah, 3-2, we have equal access to infinite debt.
Brother, it ain't getting cheaper.
Brother, would you like to buy some money?
Talk fuck this man.
It also appears that Sorel touches not merely on a cultural historical, but also on a metaphysical truth, in surmising that in the beginning all right was the prerogative of the kings or the nobles, in short, of the mighty. And that, mutatis mutandis, it will remain as so as long as it exists. For from the point of view of violence, which alone can guarantee law, there's no equality, but at the most equally great violence. The act of fixing frontiers, however, is also significant for an understanding of law in another respect. Laws and unmarked frontiers remain, at least in primeval times, unwritten laws. A man can unwittingly infringe upon them and thus incur retribution. Yeah, think of how many, Metal Gear Rising comes to mind with the rules of nature, but just like the exoticism or in the assignment of like, oh yes, the rule of nature, the law of battle, the law of the jungle. This is such a reactionary impulse in like the revenge fantasy, where it's like, oh yes, the laws of modernity have failed, but the natural law will help you get your revenge.
Yes, it failed.
Get your
the first
murder
fucking
boner
time.
satiated, yeah. A man can unwittingly infringe upon them and thus incur retribution. For each intervention of law that is provoked by an offense against the unwritten, unknown laws called, in contradistinction to punishment, retribution. Yeah, if you break these natural unspoken laws, it's not revenge, it's retribution.
It's different.
But however unluckily it may befall this unsuspecting victim, its occurrence is, in the understanding of the law, not chance, but fate showing itself once again in its deliberate ambiguity. Again, the exceptional Michael Bay protagonist. It's like, well, this guy is a really cool vet, and he's clearly doing this for the right cause, and his health insurance company's shafting him. And you know what? He's so methodical an operator, you have to respect his work ethic. We'll let him break the law just this once, you know?
Just a little
He's the
bit.
hero of the movie. Let's let him break the law.
They're Delta Force.
My favorite part of that movie, I have a lot of favorite parts, but like one of my favorite parts is when they introduce like the top Fed, like the FBI level Fed who's like here to crack the case. And like as he's introduced, he gets a phone call and it's his husband. and he's like, "You're late to therapy," and he says something mean to his husband, and then like hangs up. And that's such a neoliberal ideation of like that character. Every time I see him, it's like I imagine that character is like lab grown, so that your grandpa, who may be a little right leaning, is like, you know what, he's gay, but I like him. Like, you know, he fits. You know what? Like that doesn't matter. He sees right and wrong. Like he's a straight shooter. Like.
He puts his shoes on left and right.
He's been dramatized as like an acceptably performing citizen in a way that like really appeals to just like that American ideal. You know, identity politics, whatever, it's all window dressing, like whatever words are in that word bank, it's the right bucket. It has been dramatized as the right bucket. And you know, as we were talking about with Frederick Jameson and the cognitive mapping and why it's an aesthetics issue, it's like through aesthetics, like the personal is how people relate to the macro. If they can imagine that type of character, they're like, oh, maybe I'm not homophobic, or maybe I'm okay with gay people if they're cops. Like, you know, it triggers that thought in what might have been a previously undiscovered place in that person's mind.
Wait, so he...
And like, again, it's Michael Bay really working those cultural signifiers, because like he understands how to get an American to look up for a few minutes from their cell phone and watch the keys jangling on the screen. Like,
It's true.
It's not a matter of there just being explosions and like buxom ladies. Like there are cultural signifiers and like haptic modes of action that feel good to consume and like be the voyeur of. Herman Cohen, in a brief reflection on the ancients' conception of fate, has spoken of the inescapable realization that it is fate's orders themselves that seem to cause and bring about this infringement, this offense. To the spirit of law, even the modern principle that ignorance of a law is not protection against punishment testifies. Just as the struggle over the written law is in the early period of the ancient Greek communities is to be understood as rebellion against the spirit of mythical statutes.
I felt like I got a fucking rocket launcher. You can see why they make these assholes so hard to deal with.
I'm trying to remember. It's the Hunter S. Thompson quote where he's like,
Take it easy. Lead on.
in the land of, he's talking about America. I think he says something along those lines of like, in the land of the ignorant, stupidity is the only sin, or in the land of the vicious. He says stupidity is the only sin, and I think he's getting at something. Bin Hamim's getting at something here with that, where like, in America, the only sin is to be a sucker, you know? Like, don't be weak, don't be a pussy, that kind of thing. Don't be an idiot. Like,
don't be tricked.
They're trying to con you. Like, oh, all these socialists are trying to con you. Like, if you do that, you're going to be a bottom. You're going to be an oppressed instead of an oppressor. And don't you want to be the oppressor? Yeah. Don't you want to wield the big stick? Like, don't you want to wield the iron truncheon?
Yeah, don't you?
You want the lightsaber, right? Like, don't think about how to prevent something like the Sith from ever becoming a thing. We're gonna wait till that gestates and materializes into a real problem. But then you get to hold the lightsaber, and you get to be the cool holder of the lightsaber. And isn't that the coolest shit? Don't you want the lightsaber?
It's rad as fuck, you guys.
Report any activity. Yep. Let's take them out. Right. Let's take them down.
Man, nobody pays me in concerningly rampant financial manipulation that people are comparing to Enron.
Guys, we're gonna have Enron too. It's gonna be bigger and worse. Like whatever that
We've
means.
had like 4 Enrons since then, kinda. I mean, I guess it depends on the criteria, but like market speculation bubble things, like yeah, dude.
See what's over there.
Yeah.
See, we should be talking about rebellion instead of revolution, because when you talk about revolution, it's just like, well, yeah, like you have an Enron, and then there's a cycle, and then there's another Enron, and then there's another cycle, and then you just revolve, just a revolving door of Enrons. God, I remember watching a really funny, like, dramatized, like, made-for-TV movie about, like, this dude working at Enron. It was, like, for CBS. I just remember watching it with my mom, but, like,
so funny.
it was, like, one of the last times I can remember seeing a made-for-TV movie, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Defend here. Everybody,
a CBS original special on like Enron, the inside truth. And like it's barely about like what the actual like mechanics of that whole thing were. It was just like about a dude who was working at Enron in a position where he was totally blameless for anything, and he just kind of loses his job, and it's like, oh jeez, this sucks.
Oh jeez, guys. Oh fuck yeah. Yes, I can save. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, thank God we don't have to deal with that again.
Herman Cohen, in a brief reflection on the ancients' conception of fate, has spoken of the inescapable realization that it is fate's orders themselves that seem to cause and bring about this infringement, this offense. To this spirit of law, even the modern principle that ignorance of a law is not protection against punishment testifies, just as the struggle over written law in the early period of the ancient Greek communities is to be understood as a rebellion against the spirit of mythical statutes. Far from inaugurating a purer sphere, the mythical manifestation of immediate violence shows itself fundamentally identical with all legal violence, and turns suspicion concerning the latter into certainty of the perniciousness of its historical function, the destruction of which thus becomes obligatory. You know, he's making this link between like the historical law and the mythical law. And this is something, if you've seen The Odyssey, Nolan makes quite literal. Jacob, my one complaint with that movie, or one of my bigger complaints with that movie, is I feel it says 5 times stuff that it only really needs to say 3 times a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Like, how many times was the phrase "the law of Zeus" uttered?
It was too much.
But Nolan, in taking what he does with the law of Zeus in that movie and using it as like a reflective of like, oh yeah, we broke the spirit of hospitality in the world. Like we set precedent. It's very similar to Oppenheimer, I was realizing. Like the sacking of Troy is the same as like the setting off of the bomb in the way like it guilt rids the protagonist. Yeah. It's like an interesting thematic fetish of Nolan's. One that I like because like, I also read that as like his commentary on making the Dark Knight trilogy. Like he created this thing that's then like culturally like been cloned so many times and done badly in a textural like plagiarism sense. And like, you know, everybody calls shit Nolan-esque now when they're trying to like deride it for being too gritty or real, even though that's not really his thing.
Yeah, it's explicitly not his thing. Like Inception is literally.
Yeah.
Like, or that one movie
Tenet,
you can't understand.
like
Tenet, yes.
Tenet literally telling you like don't think about it, because the whole point of Tenet is like he wants you to embrace like the fantastical like marginal space of theme and emotion and idea, not so much like how does the science here work? Like no, that's never been his thing. Like, if you're watching Inception, did they ever explain how the dream machine actually works? No, he just flips it open. There's a bunch of dials and knobs and shit. And, like, they talk a little bit while doing things, but it's not like the audience needs to know that. Like, don't think about it.
Like, what?
I think the Prestige could even, like, you know, benefit from a little think about it. I think it's kind of clunky how it unveils the clone thing. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way the first time I watched it, because it felt like a cheat almost. But then I was like, no, okay, like, I accept it.
I'll let you be.
I'll let you be. Yeah, I did realize I think we're meant to contrast sacrificing stuff we care about versus self-sacrifice and the leap of faith. Yes.
Watch for Soviets.
Also, just that raid on Troy, like when they first drop out of the horse and have to open the gate, the tension on that scene still holds. I saw the IMAX preview when we went to see Avatar.
Oh, that was incredible.
Even remembering it from there, like the tension still held seeing it again in a theater.
Report activity. Go. Search over there. Come on.
You guys really won't go up ahead of me? This is very dumb. Right, go. This way. Let's go, ladies.
But yeah, from what I understand, that the location they shot the Trojan horse stuff on was also like contested land at the time, and like they didn't need to go there, like just out of a political angle. The tension in the suitor fight too, yeah, man.
Also, an actor I worked with, Corey, was the one who kicked the dog and also got stabbed in the neck by
Nice.
Matt Damon.
Nice.
Yeah, Corey, he's great.
Fall back. Move.
We love Corey, even though he was a bad man who kicked the dog in the scene. I was very sad, but I was like, no, don't do it, Corey. That's mean. It's a cute dog.
This very task of destruction poses again, in the last resort, the question of pure immediate violence that might be able to call a halt to mythical violence. Just as in all spheres God opposes myth, mythical violence is confronted by the divine. And the latter constitutes its antithesis in all respects. If mythical violence is lawmaking, divine violence is law-destroying. If the former sets boundaries, the latter boundlessly destroys them. If mythical violence brings at once guilt and retribution, divine power only expiates. If the former threatens, the latter strikes. If the former is bloody, the latter is lethal without spilling blood. The legend of Niobe may be confronted as an example of this violence with God's judgment on the company of Korah. It strikes privileged Levites, strikes them without warning, without threat, and does not stop short of annihilation, but in annihilating it also expiates. And a deep connection between the lack of bloodshed and the expiatory character of this violence is unmistakable. For blood's the symbol of mere life. The dissolution of legal violence stems, as cannot be shown in detail here, from the guilt of more natural life, which consigns the living innocent and unhappy to a retribution that expiates the guilt of mere life, and doubtless also purifies the guilty, not of guilt, however, but of law.
Look at that shot right there.
Oh, that is a cool horizon.
Right.
Also, purifies the guilty, not of guilt, however, but of law. The dissolution of legal violence stems, as cannot be shown in detail here, from the guilt of more natural life, which consigns the living, innocent and unhappy, to a retribution that expiates the guilt of mere life, and doubtless also purifies the guilty, not of the guilt, however, but of the law. When people say, like, you know, does X-politician think they're above the law? Yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
Yes, like that's exactly what we're talking about here. Like, it's not about like respecting the thing. It's about feeling you're finally outside the bounds of guilt the thing confers to a normal citizen. Like, why do you think they like to be called lawmakers? Like, because you're no longer like being acted upon by it. You were acting on it.
Destroy! Come on!
Yeah, Caesar, they're definitely using, like, you know, stuffed animals going over that ledge and, like, superimposing some renderings.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be mean to those animals. Plus, I know Corey, he's a nice man.
For with mere life, the rule of law over the living ceases. Mythical violence is bloody power over mere life for its own sake. Divine violence is pure power over all life for the sake of the living. The first demands sacrifice. The second accepts it. This divine power is attested not only by religious tradition, but is also found in present-day life in at least one sanctioned manifestation. The educative power, which in its perfected form stands outside the law, is one of its manifestations. These are defined, therefore, not by miracles directly performed by God, but by the expiating moment in them that strikes without bloodshed, and finally, by the absence of all lawmaking. To this extent, it is justifiable to call this violence, too, annihilating, but it is only so relatively, with regard to the goods, right, life, and such like, never absolutely with regard to the soul of the living. The premise of such an extension of pure or divine power is sure to provoke, particularly today, the most violent reactions, and to be countered by the argument that, taken to its logical conclusion, it confers on men even lethal power against one another. This, however, cannot be conceded, for the question, may I kill, meets its irreducible answer in the commandment, thou shalt not kill. This commandment precedes the deed, just as God was preventing the deed. But just as it may not be fear of punishment that enforces obedience, the injunction becomes inapplicable, incommensurable once the deed is accomplished. No judgment of the deed can be derived from the commandment, and so neither the divine judgment nor the grounds for this judgment can be known in advance. Those who base a condemnation of all violent killing on one person by another or on the commandment are therefore mistaken. It exists not as a criterion of judgment, but as a guideline for the actions of persons or communities who have to wrestle with it in solitude and, in exceptional cases, to take on themselves the responsibility of ignoring it. Thus it was understood by Judaism, which expressly rejected the condemnation of killing in self-defense. But those thinkers who take the opposed view refer to a more distant theorem, on which they possibly propose to base even the commandment itself. This is the doctrine of the sanctity of life, which they either apply to all animal or even vegetable life or limit to human life. Their argumentation, exemplified in an extreme case by the revolutionary killing of the oppressor, runs as follows. If I do not kill, I shall never establish the world dominion of justice. That is the argument of the intelligent terrorist. We, however, profess that higher even than the happiness and justice of existence stands existence itself. As certainly as this last proposition is false, indeed ignoble, it shows the necessity of seeking the reason for the commandment no longer in what the deed does to the victim, but in what it does to God and the doer. The proposition that existence stands higher than a just existence is false and ignominious, if existence is to mean nothing other than mere life, and it has this meaning in the argument referred to. It contains a mighty truth, however. If existence, or, better, life, words whose ambiguity is readily dispelled, analogously to that of freedom, when they are referred to in two distinct spheres. You're fighting for your freedoms right now, Jacob.
You know, I'm trying.
Means the irreducible total condition that is man, if the proposition is intended to mean that the non-existence of man is something more terrible than the admittedly subordinate, not yet attained condition of the just man. To this ambiguity, the proposition quoted above owes its plausibility. Man cannot, at any price, be said to coincide with the mere life in him, no more than with any other conditions and qualities, not even with the uniqueness of his bodily person. However sacred man is, or that life in him that is identically present in earthly life, death, and afterlife, there is no sacredness in his condition, in his bodily life vulnerable to injury by his fellow men. What then distinguishes it essentially from the life of animals and plants? And even if these were sacred, they cannot be so by virtue only of being alive, of being in life. It might be well worthwhile to track down the origin of the dogma of the sacredness of life. Perhaps, indeed probably, it is relatively recent, the last mistaken attempt of the weakened Western tradition to seek the saint it has lost in cosmological impenetrability. The antiquity of all religious commandments against murder is no counter-argument, because these are based on other ideas than the modern theorem. Finally, this idea of man's sacredness gives grounds for reflection that what is here pronounced sacred was, according to ancient mythical thought, the marked bearer of guilt, life itself. The critique of violence is the philosophy of its history. The philosophy of this history, because only the idea of its development makes possible a critical, discriminating, and decisive approach to its temporal data. A gaze directed only at what is close at hand can be most perceived in a dialectical rising and falling in the law-making and law-preserving formations of violence. The law governing their oscillation rests on the circumstance that all law-preserving violence in its duration indirectly weakens the law-making violence represented by it, through the suppression of hostile counter-violence. Various symptoms of this have been referred to in the course of this study. This lasts until either new forces or those earlier suppressed triumph over the hereto law-making violence and thus found a new law, destined in its turn to decay. On the breaking of this cycle, maintained by mythical forms of law, on the suspension of law with all the forces on which it depends as they depend on it, finally therefore on the abolition of state power, a new historical epoch is founded. If the rule of myth is broken occasionally in the present age, the coming age is not so unimaginably remote that an attack on law is altogether futile. But if the existence of violence outside the law, as pure immediate violence, is assured, this furnishes the proof that revolutionary violence, the highest manifestation of unalloyed violence by man, is possible, and by what means. Less possible, and also less urgent for humankind, however, is to decide when unalloyed violence has been realized in particular cases. For only mythical violence, not divine, will be recognizable as such with certainty, unless it be incomparable effect, because the expiatory power of violence is not visible to men. Once again, all the eternal forms are open to pure divine violence, which myth bastardized with law. It may manifest itself in a true war, exactly as in the divine judgment of the multitude on a criminal. But all mythical law-making violence, which we may call executive, is pernicious. Pernicious, too, is law-preserving, administrative violence that serves it. Divine violence, which is the sign and seal but never the means of sacred execution, may be called sovereign violence. And that's the end. I'm thinking about this ending here with the talk about the dissolution of violence and the unsustainability of it. Like, this was after World War I, and you can probably read the room and just see how futile these individualist systems of like retributive, like myth-making violence were. Not scaling up. I think a big problem with the fallout of World War I that led to World War II is like we hadn't really figured out like, you know, nationalism was emergent and we were having issues of scale, and a lot of the World War I style punishments feel like more like individualist minded sort of like ganking of nations. It's nations treating each other like people in the worst ways, kind of a thing that leads them to like bankrupting Germany and causing kind of like resentment and instability across Europe in like a you know, what leads to like the Weimar era in Germany with like the Depression. Yeah, Caesar Solid, if you check out the link I have pinned, you have the full text.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're reading this tonight after following up Paulo Freire's Pedagogy of the Oppressed.
Let's go.
I'm going to turn up the game, and we're going to focus on Jacob getting to it.
Yeah, we're gonna try.
Scout ahead. Go, go, go!
But to get back to Christopher Nolan and talking a bit of the banking method of education, a lot of the takes on the Odyssey and kind of like just critiquing Christopher Nolan in general, there's a train of it that hinges on like he's not intentionally able to wrangle.
Report activity.
There's a strain of criticism or judgment where people are trying to outsmart the thing, and this is especially true of Christopher Nolan stuff because he does make puzzle box stuff that does invite asking for you to question it. But I think to get back to like what we were talking about with the vocabulary and the banking and like just exchanging like word banks, to what point is it to try to outsmart Christopher Nolan or say like, well, like look at what Elon Musk is doing with like the AI Odyssey. Like, what are you trying to prove, dude?
Get them. You heard me.
I mean, nothing. It'll prove that the dumb machine that no one cares about.
It's sort of the anti-dialogical approach towards like, well, I can score more points on the test, and therefore you should listen to me. Like, I should be the most authoritative figure on this thing.
Yeah.
Not because like I'm passionately in love with the subject matter and able to convey in a human sense why you should care about it, but because
I just want to.
Yeah, I need you to call me the biggest boy.
Damn. They got me.
Jacob, why aren't you being the biggest boy?
I don't know. Because they have guns. I didn't realize they were going for guns. I kind of thought it was like a one-sided thing. Unfortunately. Although I did realize I could make them clear the road by doing that.
On Barney Cam, you are the biggest boys. Oh yes, I see right there.
It's true, yeah.
Watch for Soviets. Come on. Mind the Reds. Do it.
While you guys go. Go. Try little fellers, get in there.
Yeah, the banking and word bank just recitation method of trivia geekery, I think is something very prevalent right now. Everybody's a dude on the couch, including us.
It's true, we are definitely dudes on couches.
Dudes on couches.
Custom coach.
Take this. You'll be fine. Thank you so much.
Sorry guys, we only got the one.
Yeah, like I just want certification, I don't want to do all the studying kind of thing.
Take them out. Go. Sure thing. All of you heard me.
Yeah, Caesar Solid. It's like, oh, I can just fake it till I make it, and once I have the paper that says the thing, people will take me seriously, then they won't be able to question the thing. Like, I think the accidental byproduct of having the oppressor-oppressed kind of Freire outline style of bucket banking education in which you're just making little authoritarian subjects is they learn to lie. They learn to hide things.
Yes,
like, because appeasing the authoritarian or the leader in charge is the highest priority, it becomes, well, like, how do I undercut everyone else?
Yeah, how do I position
myself to be the best boy in daddy's eyes?
Which is just the fucking funniest thing about corporate America is we want like honest, we want honest thoughts, but you don't want that.
I take the opposite route, give me the source materials and skip paying for the test. Yeah.
Take this. This should help. Eliminate.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Try boys, get it.
Hey chat, how do I do damage control for my a-hole boss so he doesn't fire me?
You want a question? God damn it.
Hey chat, where's the best place to hide the bodies? I got 4. Yeah, he was real drunk this time. 70 through a school zone. Pretty nasty work.
Yeah, but
I just gotta hide the bodies though. The rest of the narrative's already been taken by another guy. I mean, but chat, I need to know where to bury them.
Search over there.
Search over there.
you do it.
Sweep that area. Get moving.
All you boys. Troy fillers. Love it.
How many pigs do I need, chat?
All I want to see for you guys, you know, I'm just in a big battle.
You're just a big boy who needs his big
Pull out. Let's
explosives.
go. Let's go. I'm behind
Pull
you.
out, boys.
Whatever you say. Here you go. Try this.
I feel much better now. Thank you.
Yeah, bet you do.
Move in. Give him the whole eliminate. Everybody. Yeah.
Go kill that guy.
They keep such tight, like, lines.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
I
know.
know they're bots. It's just very funny to see. Especially when they all start shooting directly over each other's heads and there's no friendly fire.
Regroup, all of you. Roger that.
I love it. Alright, boys, I need y'all up over
Check
there.
over there. Team, sir. Yes, sir. Scout ahead. Squad.
No, my man.
Kill him up, kill him up.
Just breathe. Thank you. We got company. Wipe them out. Go, go, go.
Are you accruing enough violence to supplant order?
I believe so. I believe we're getting there.
Hit their
The military
position.
violence example reminded me of a video I saw on YouTube recently of an ex-Marine just talking about the boot camp experience. And just like, he's like, yeah, everyone steals from each other, but there's only one thief in the Corps, and everyone else is just on acquisition.
Yes.
This stream's my last lurk from a second shift. I hope your shift is ending well, 3-2.
Yeah, thanks for coming and hanging. Hopefully it's entertaining. We've learned a lot on this one. It's been great. That book is really fucking good too, and also unfortunately very, very topical.
Yeah, well, like, thinking about pedagogy, well, like, even Benjamin talking about the police violence and the monopoly on violence and mythical violence versus divine violence, like,
Get back here. Go, go, go. Rolling in, sir.
that came out in 21, so keep in mind way before pedagogy, but I do think within what pedagogy is
Wipe them out.
outlining
You
is
heard me.
just, yeah, how do we become self-conscious of, like, the superstitious stuff that upholds the mythical violence, the fated violence. The superstitious violence of, like, well, it has to be this way. What's the underlying violence making you feel threatened and insecure in the way that keeps you from discovering more about yourself? Hell yeah, congrats on the move at least.
Oh, nice, yeah.
found a place.
I love housing. That's such a cool thing.
Get fed, come on.
That's right, boys. Let them come to us.
The monkey had some fun stuff going on with like the mythologizing of violence too, or trying to assign order to like the chaos of the thing. It was very good. I talked about, you know, that opening scene just slapping you straight in the face with what the semiotic meaning of the thing was going to be. But there were several times where like something horror movie cliche was about to happen and they just directly announced, diffused it, and moved on forward from it in like really fun ways.
Yeah.
Again, thinking of the Zoomer boss.
He was so funny.
How quick the kids just accepted like, oh yeah, the monkey's cursed.
Regroup, everybody.
There's that preacher who just absolutely didn't give a fuck. That was great.
He was.
He was such a bad. He was so bad at giving any kind of sermon.
You know, a man of faith losing his own. Like, kind of like, or questioning his own.
Also, the uncle just be like, we're swingers.
Also very funny. And a small cameo, like the best kind of like.
I like that his death in particular you didn't see either.
Yeah, you saw the after kind of.
Like once the movie realized it would be too tiring if it just kept doing the same thing, and so it kept compounding on itself. Once again, it was taking its premise seriously.
I did like the super montage of like the town. It was like, yeah, a lot of people, and then it was just like bam, bam, bam.
Yeah,
bam, bam,
yeah,
to make it like the comedy of it. It's like this is. It really knew what it was doing.
The fact that it's a comedy tone too, because like there's a certain sense that the protagonist has to accept this part of life as a thing, and he can't keep like hiding it in the shadows. And it's like the same sense of like trying to keep death as like too distant and sacred and serious a thing. If you were to have a horror movie that was more like grievous with it, whereas like when there's a bit of a silliness and an irony to it, it makes it more of a fact of the environment. Like, again, a lot of mousetrap style kills in this movie. Like life.
Like life? Fuck.
So the horror isn't supposed to be in like the visceral terror of the protagonist like feeling bad in the moment. It's supposed to be in the obvious like absurdity of like, dude, just admit it. Just like be open. Just like tell your kid what's going on. Just like be a father to your child.
Yeah, be around.
Just be around. Yes, what's happening is silly, but if you don't tell people about what's happening. Like, if you don't tell people about what's happening in the little minor ways because you're too scared to tell someone, like, I think of ironic self-deprecation in this way, like when it comes to like millennials being like, oh yeah, I'm 30, I'm already old and decrepit. It's like, no, maybe get your back checked out. Like,
yeah, maybe just exercise a little bit, maybe stretch.
Yeah, maybe it's fine to like actually like you don't have to ironically like act a certain way if it's detrimental to your health. You know, if you keep that stuff covered up, it just, you know, takes root and grows into something deeper ongoing over time, or it can. And it's a matter of like, well, do you want to take yourself seriously, or are you just trying to be taken seriously by adapting an affect for social presentation?
Whoa, do you get blown up like that? That's kind of upsetting.
Yeah. Because I do think there is a mode of social presentation, like if you're, you know, in that banking mode of education, if you're trapped in that, you know, you're always measuring yourself up against that other person, as Sartre would say, with hell is other people, where like you're imagining judgment before it happens in ways that are just anxiety driving.
Let's go.
Maybe that's why we have such a sexless culture in our superhero movies, because all the superheroes are like, at least in the MCU sense, they're all there for S.H.I.E.L.D., you know? They're all performing as agents for the system, and there's an anxiety there, like the world will end if I'm not the best performer at the job.
Which is always like,
Which is like
scared
such
to
a
live.
yeah. That's my issue with the Holland Spider-Mans is they reflect this ethos because I really question like is the human world in the Marvel Cinematic Universe even worth living in if you're not a superhero? Like if you're just an everyday dude and you just want to have like a modest business and a family, even if you don't want to like bear the weight of like a huge economic burden and you leave a low footprint, you're just like the crazy uncle and the monkey, and like you and your wife are just swingers having a good time, whatever. Like, is the Marvel Universe like stable enough to have any kind of normal life that's fun and not anxiety driven because Doctor Doom or Galactus or some other motherfucker is like 2 days away from blowing everything up?
Get back here! You heard me!
And like, so there's that level of fiction, and like you can use that to like criticize superhero comics in general, like the Marvel Universe. But the Marvel Cinematic Universe in particular, it gets beyond that because I think of like Spider-Man Far From Home in particular, where every scene that's not action, where it's like it's supposed to be Holland and them all like just doing high school shenanigans, it's acted with such like bitter sarcasm and irony, like hey look at us, we're doing a stupid high school movie, isn't this stupid high school drama so stupid and trite, and why should we even try? Like it's so phoned in on so many levels where it's just like
It feels completely insincere.
Peter Parker's whole thing is like he wants to go to the prom and like he doesn't sure if he wants to bang the redhead or the blonde, but then there's a dude in a vulture costume crashing his life. So, like, the thing he wants to participate in isn't there. Like, he wants to have a normal life, and I just don't see any kind of that thing going on in the MCU. Like, this world just seems like always on the brink of catastrophe, and there's never a good slice of like it worth saving at the human level, at least conveyed in the movie itself.
Oh, totally.
This should help.
Just like the bucket, it's the whole banking education system at play where it's like, well, this is the apocalypse, and so without any kind of precision or definition, just because it is the apocalypse, you're going to care that it needs to be stopped. To which I think an apocalypse is a systems level issue. I'm not a system.
That's fair.
If the system fails or changes, I as an individual have a different experience, but like the world's not literally going to end unless there's actually like a solar flare out and everybody gets zapped up in like some kind of climate crisis.
Yeah,
but
holy shit, there was a fucking save point right here this whole fucking time.
wow, Jacob. 3-2, I have not watched Spider Noir at all. I wasn't really very interested in it at all.
I was intrigued, but did nothing about it. You know? That save's been fucking sitting there. Me looking like a fucking asshole. Where's this goddamn C4 is the real question.
Have you just cleared out all the map and don't know?
Pretty much. I think I gotta go fight these guys. I thought I'd be able to find it beforehand, but I think I gotta take out the big guns.
Oh, nice. Will they hop over the wall, or is there another way for them to get over there?
Sometimes both.
They will show you the way.
Yeah.
Nice arc.
I know, it is so hard to gauge where you're actually aiming.
It looks like you got a guy, yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. Let's go, boys. Who's my good boys? Well, if everybody's in one.
The gang's all here. There's Charlie. There's Charlie too.
We are Charlie Kirk. Don't get shot in the neck, guys.
Defend here. Come on.
How would S.H.I.E.L.D. even fight Citizens United?
Much better now. Thank you.
Take it
I bet
easy.
you do. I bet me making sure there's not a hole in your neck makes you feel much better than you did before.
Defend this area. Everybody. I'll wait right here.
Caesar, that's actually the premise for a very money She-Hulk show that will never happen. Because that would require actually taking the premise seriously and following through on it.
That would be so cool if they could.
That would be cool though, yeah.
I really like She-Hulk far more than I was expecting to.
I like Jennifer Walters. Like, yeah, I like her character in general. Like, I think She-Hulk's more interesting than the Hulk.
Yeah.
Although I do hear good things about the Peter David run on the Hulk. Although I don't have a good way of getting it. The omnibuses are crazy pricey, and I just don't have the space right now.
Check over there. Get moving.
Corporations are people, and people bleed. Yeah, Citizens United would just become a sort of like AI robot monster thing that they just punch. And then for some reason, like, it'd blow up, and then the law would get reset, and everybody's like, good thing you helped us, Captain Special.
Pull out! You heard me.
We won't do that thing again by just simply writing a law that says we won't do that thing again, and then the problem is solved. And none of the systemic incentives that led to that happening will happen ever again. I mean, Spider-Man, No Way Home, just... Why, thank you, Peter. You've rehabilitated me, Norman Osborn. Now I can go back to my regular day job as an arms manufacturer with military contracts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's send him back to his home dimension so he can keep making bombs for Raytheon. Before he took the Goblin Fluid, he was fucking engineering a fucking glider and bombs and shit. Like, all the gear he has as the Green Goblin, he was going to sell that. Before he took the crazy formula, he was going to sell that to the military. His company was manufacturing that for the military. The Goblin formula did not make him make those weapons. They just made him accelerate the timeline.
Oh, interesting. You don't really need to arc. You just actually need to aim where you want it to go, and you'll.
Oh, you've been trying to arc?
Yes.
You've been trying to modern game it.
I really have, and I hate when I do that for a game.
Happened to me a lot while playing Medal of Honor.
Oh my god, right? You're just
Get their position. Let's go. Let's go.
Sorry, because I saved, because I remembered, because I found it. That's right. I'm still better than Elon Musk, and that's the important thing. The most important thing. Okay, let's do it as boys. Okay. Oh. Previous battery needs to charge. Ooh.
In their position. Go, go, go.
I'm invested. Can you make it over this wall?
Take this. You'll be fine. Defend this area. Come on. I'll wait right here. Get them. Team. Sure thing. Here. Regroup. Everybody.
Just double checking while we're here. It looks like no pixel goblins tonight, eh? Copy that.
Oh, those goblins.
Dim goblins out of it for now.
Take them down. Do it.
It's also going to be a moment before the next Fight Opera, but as always, check out our friends the Pixel Goblins, check out Fight Opera, go on over to Wizworld Live. Also, check out Radio Free Multiverse. I haven't given them a solid. I've been looking at some of the VOD stuff, but like, I need to get back on things stuff.
Find the Reds. Move. Stand your ground. Squad.
Yes.
Don't just find friends online, though, folks. Please be touching grass out there.
Try this.
Yeah. Guys, come on.
I only keep feeling the heightening contradiction between superhero cinema and my experiences with comic books, and it is such a frustrating like difference between the macro culture and what's on the ground and available.
Yeah. I see that big point from Pynchon.
Damn.
Fuck, yo. Fuck.
Best you can do is touch sound. You know what? 3, 2, do it. Also, if you need to save for the night, it is about that time. It's 10:51.
We'll do it. We'll come back to this. We're on the last.
Yeah, because Thursday I'm going to be starting Pipistrello because you're not going to be around, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. We'll start Pipistrello and Gretchen Felker-Martin's Black Flame will be part of the discussion while I play that solo on Thursday. When Jacob gets back Monday, I'm assuming, I'm going to look up and see, it probably will be Walter Benjamin. It's going to be the Angel of History essay. Since we've done the work of art, we just did Critique of Violence, we talk about Benjamin enough, and he's foundational enough and carries forward into stuff like Jameson, which we're going to swing back around to because we also have to read more Jameson.
True.
I have Archaeologies of the Future still sitting on my shelf. Anyways, that's all to say. We got plenty coming down the pipe. Thank you for joining us tonight for Techno Poverty. We are going to be watching The Return this Sunday on our Discord. We have no one to really raid into right now, but as again, aforementioned friends, shout out to the Pixel Goblins, Wizworld, and Radio Free Multiverse. Thank you for being here, Jaw, 3-2, Captain Quasar, Wide Henry on the right screen.
Yeah, I forgot I put the widescreen on. This camera, this ancient camera.
But yeah, we'll be back Thursday. We'll be back next. What is today? Thursday? Monday? I'm so lost. It's been a disorientating time for me, folks. We'll be back next section with Pipistrello. I'll be talking Black Flame, and when Jacob returns, we'll get back to the Benjamin and the Freedom Fighters. But until then, y'all take care.
You got it, Caesar salad.
Yeah, Caesar Salad, nice meeting you. Thanks for joining us tonight. Besides The Return, I might screen Backrooms at some point in the near future on the Discord. If you join our Discord, we have a movie gang. I keep you in the loop on all this stuff, and there's special perks to being part of that movie gang. Just, again, check out our Linktree, check out our Patreon. Honestly, at this point, I should take down the Ko-fi. I prefer when things go through the Patreon as far as how that stuff works out. Mm-hmm. But, you can subscribe to our stuff on YouTube as well. Check out our backlog because there is quite a bit. We've been going for about a year now.
That's wild.
Yeah, I highly recommend maybe the Doom Eternal Paradise Lost as a starting point because that's where the formula seemed to really kind of start cohering.
Yeah.
Although I really liked when we played Jet Set Radio Future as well. I talked about too many books at once with that one, but they were all good quality shit.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to be talking about though.
But yeah, y'all take care. See you next time.
Good night, Techno Hotties and Thotties. Forehead kisses.